Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and we are live, the head coaching search. We just got to keep on trucking, man. Coming up here on today's live show, we're going to get into the latest around Pete Carroll. I know that this is one of the names that is considered to be the front runner to be the Raiders' next head coach, and since Ben Johnson went to Chicago and Mike Vrabel ended up going to New Orleans, my question out there is this. Is Deion Sanders an option again? And I know before everybody hits me with, Mitch, we already know that the Raiders are not interested. What I had to do over the past 24 hours is I went back and I looked at all of the reports in terms of where the Raiders missed on Ben Johnson. And I know how difficult it is to cover this football team. We all understand how things change in life and how things change in the NFL. But if the Raiders beat writers missed as bad as what they did on all of the Ben Johnson stuff, to me, I think it would be foolish to not at least revisit the idea if Deion Sanders is an option. Because if all we heard was the Raiders are the front runner for Ben Johnson and everything that's being reported now is that's never true, is it actually true that the Raiders are not, in fact, interested in Deion? So we're going to talk about Coach Prime here a little bit, because even if the Raiders wanted Ben Johnson, and they did want Ben Johnson, and the report came out a day after Johnson interviewed. To me, the fact that you missed on BJ now says that everything's got to be back on the table again. So you know what? I'm going to talk about Deion Sanders today, and then we're going to go through and we're going to look at some Raiders head coach candidates, which is a video that I've already done 2 times. So we are doing it a completely different way here today on the show. I'm going to tell you which guy that I want. I'm going to give you some sleeper candidates. If I was the Raiders, I would take my time and I would go look at some other candidates out there. Hell, there's 10 other names that I would like for the Raiders to interview. When you look at some of the rumors out there around the Bucs job, not the Bucs job, Liam Cohen looks like he's going to get the Jags head coach job when you follow a lot of the beat reporters for the Jags. So if you're the Raiders and it looks like the Saints and y'all kind of aren't in the same mix, the Raiders can take their time. Not saying that they should, but I want to make sure that we get the right GM, and I want to make sure that we get the right head coach, which takes us right here to PG 2869. What's up, my brother? We already got 900 people here in the building. If you haven't yet, make sure you click that like button. And if you are a first-time watcher, I know we've been getting a bunch of people. We did just cross 184,000 subs. If you're not already subbed, make sure you are. Appreciate you. So, PG, Mitch, do you think that we're going to have to settle for a mediocre head coach and GM again? I don't think that that's the case. And this was one of the things that I said yesterday, where even though the Raiders missed on Ben Johnson, they are still doing things the right way. What do I mean? You go back and you look at a lot of the other head coach hiring cycles that the Raiders had. It was basically just Antonio Pierce. The time before that, it was basically just Josh McDaniels. And the time before that, it was basically just John Gruden. They threw in a few other little names here and there to satisfy the Rooney Rule. But Mark Davis went into those interviews thinking that this is going to be the guy that we're going to end up getting, and this is the dude that I want. The Raiders still have a lot of good potential guys they could bring in. You could hire a Pete Carroll. You could hire a Todd Monken, though the Raiders still don't have an interview set for Monken, and they don't have an interview set yet for Steve Spagnuolo. But, there are good candidates out there, and there are a lot of good candidates out there. There's a lot of good GM candidates out there. So I still think that the Raiders will have a better head coach and GM situation than what we had last season, than what we have with McDaniels and Ziegler, better than what we have with Gruden and Mayock. And every single offseason, every team tries to do one thing. You got to get better than what you were last season. And I think no matter what, the Raiders are going to be better this season. Let's go to the real cowboy. What up, man? Sucks no BJ. Everyone loves a good Ben Johnson, and Pete Carroll we trust. I do trust Pete Carroll, and I talked about it a little bit earlier on my show this morning, and I talked about it a little bit, on social media, where if you're going to hire Pete Carroll, I'm okay with the idea, but the Raiders need stability. If you agree with that, type me down below. The Raiders need a long plan, and if you're going to bring in Pete Carroll at 73 years old, I don't really know if that's a long-term plan, right? I know Pete's young at 73, but 5 years, that's a long time, right? If he's 78 coaching a football team, that is a long, long time. So to me, I would look at Pete Carroll as like a bridge head coach. Then you try to bring in a really good OC, you try to bring in a really good DC, and then when Pete hits that age where he's basically already at, and you're like, all right, Pete, thanks for everything. You helped us build this football team. Then you hand the keys to somebody else, whether it be that DC, whether that be that OC. Like, I don't want it to just be the Pete Carroll show. I want it to be a trio of Pete Carroll, Great DC, great OC, and they are all working together with one objective in mind, and that's to get a title. Who's going to be the Raiders' next head coach? Let me know down below what you guys have to say. We got over 1,000 people here in the building. I'm going to go through, and I'm going to give some shout-outs here in a moment, but I got to give a shout-out to our sponsor here, PrizePicks. I love PrizePicks, and you're going to be able to get $50 when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Just make sure that you use code CLNS. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. But guess what? It's not only about PrizePicks. Our other sponsor here today is also Game Time, and they're going to help you take the guesswork at getting tickets at the lowest price available. Promo code ChatSports, that's ChatSports. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code ChatSports for $20 off. If you're wondering what time is it, it's Game Time. Let's go to Rich Wolf here also. I see Brian says, what about Cliff Kingsbury? We're going to talk about Cliff here a little bit on today's show. Todd Monken or Spags from Raider Willie? We're going to talk about both of them as well. Pete will fall asleep during the head coach meeting. And, you know, like, I get it. I don't think, though, you can say Pete Carroll and treat him like a normal 73-year-old dude because, real talk, Rich, and I think that you would agree with this, if I am as healthy and as young and as full of life at 73 like Pete Carroll is, then I think I'm doing a lot of the right things with my life. Now, don't get me wrong. We get kind of crazy on this show, so I don't know if I'm going to be looking and feeling that great at 73, but just saying he's old and he's going to fall asleep, I don't think is fair. Pete's a young 73. What up, Gutierrez? Please, no more defensive coaches, please. Yeah, I mean, Antonio Pierce was a defensive-minded guy. Josh McDaniels before that, offensive. John Gruden, offensive before that. I'm somebody that wants an offensive-minded coach too, right? And I totally get it. However, though, if you're the Raiders, what's your strength right now, offense or defense? I think we would all say it's probably the defense, but we know if we get a quarterback, you can get that quickly moving in the right direction. We got a great piece there in Brock Bowers, but we also have another great piece in Max Crosby. If you decide to bring in a guy like Pete Carroll, who is a defensive-minded coach, and then you also are able to bring in somebody, let's just say, you know, like a Robert Saleh, and then you're able to bring in a really good offensive coordinator, maybe a Mike LaFleur. I know some of y'all might not like this name, but Frank Reich has got a lot of ties to a lot of those dudes, and he's been able to show that he can be a good quarterback whisperer, a good offensive-minded coordinator, maybe not the best head coach, but don't just look at it as Pete Carroll, the defensive coach. Look at it as Pete Carroll and his overall staff. Let's go to Sam. What up, man? Why not interview Aaron Glenn for that job? I mean, the Raiders interviewed Glenn back on, January 9th. It wasn't an in-person interview. It was the same day they interviewed Ben Johnson. I think one of the reasons, though, and the reason why they're not going to interview Glenn, it's because Glenn is going to go to the New York Jets. Quite frankly, I think that deal ends up getting done either today or early tomorrow. And then also Lance Newmark, the person that the Raiders interviewed on Sunday, the assistant GM for the Commanders. It sounds like Aaron Glenn and Lance Newmark were a package deal for a long time, and that's why they're going to the Jets. It could be a reason why Ben Johnson maybe did have a change of heart at the last minute if everything that we heard from our beat writers was true. Let's go to Lil Flapjack. What's up, man? Love the baby pick. Monken and Dollar Tree Lamar. Milrow. Am I crazy for saying it? It'd be cool to see the Raiders offense in a different style like this. You know, Lil Flapjack, I don't know how often you watch this show, but to me, I love Todd Monken. And I'm going to talk a lot about Monken today because he's one name where I'm like, all right, the Ravens lost. The Raiders have still yet to get that an exact interview date set. They requested to interview him, and it's something that I want to see happen. But if you're not at least kind of tempted by this idea, because I said the exact same thing where I was like, Milrow did struggle this past year, but he also lost Nick Saban. That's a lot of turnover. That's a lot of change for that Alabama Crimson Tide offense, for the Alabama Crimson Tide football program, for the entire school, and for a quarterback like Jalen Milrow. Are you crazy? Like, you told me right now, Todd Monken, you could draft Milrow probably in the second, maybe third round. You use one of those third-round picks to go get him. You go out and get like an Ashton Genty, and then you really build that offensive line in free agency, and you bulk up that way. I don't think it's the worst idea out there, but also you could look at somebody like Justin Fields, a cheap quarterback option at $10 million. Like, Justin Fields at $10 million, you go out, you draft Jalen Milroe, you go out and draft Ashton Genty, and then with all that other money that you're going to be saving in free agency, you just bulk up that freaking offensive line, and we try to get an offensive line like the Philadelphia Eagles, like the Baltimore Ravens, like a team like the Detroit Lions. There's a reason why a lot of those teams are winning football games late in the season. Let's go to John Rodriguez. I don't want PC. You don't want a PC. What about a Mac? Are you more of a Mac guy? No, I get it. Pete Carroll, I think right now what Raider fans got to do is you got to forget about Ben Johnson, right? You got to forget about Ben Johnson. And I want a BJ as well, but I still think that Pete Carroll can be a good head coach. It's not exactly who we wanted. But at the end of the day, when you go through a season as bad as what we went through, and now 2025, all I'm ever going to do now is figure out a way where I can get excited about Pete Carroll. And if it's Pete Carroll, if it's Todd Monken, if it's Robert Saleh, Deion Sanders, I'm going to figure out a way to get excited about it. Joey, what up, man? Think BJ made a lifelong enemy in Brady. Brady doesn't seem like the guy you slight. I wouldn't want to have Brady's negative attention. I agree with Brady does kind of seem like that guy where if you're going against him, he's going to carry that chip on his shoulder. But, I think all competitors are like that. I think all people are like that. I think that, let's be real. The Raiders, they play the Bears next season at Allegiant Stadium. That's going to be one of those games that every single one of us that are watching the show, we got over 1,300 people watching. That's going to be a game that we all got circled because you do feel a little bit of a type of way. And it's because you're a competitor. It's because you wanted something and you feel like it got snatched from you. But at the same time, I don't know if he made a lifelong enemy because I also don't know if you want to burn that bridge. Because Ben Johnson could go to Chicago, an organization that's never had a 4,000-yard passer, an organization that looks like they picked the wrong guy, number one overall. I think Caleb is a hell of a quarterback, but they should have went with Jaden Daniels, right? I mean, it's kind of looking like that. But I also could see maybe Ben flaming out in that first year, first-time head coach, and then who knows, maybe a few years down the road he figures it out a little bit. Because Johnson is such a good play caller that even if he fails as a head coach, and if he does fail as a head coach in Chicago, you're telling me you wouldn't be interested in Ben Johnson as the OC of the Las Vegas Raiders? That's the only reason why I wouldn't burn that bridge there. Let's go to Thugador Strawberry. Do you think it's important to get a head coach who's actually suited up in the past? I don't know how much that actually matters if I'm being real. I would say the most important thing for our brand new head coach is that head coach has a path. And he's got a path of being able to figure out what's the best way to get a successful quarterback in. I want a head coach that's been able to show that they can find a great QB, right? Pete Carroll did magic with Geno Smith. Pete Carroll did a lot of great things for Russell Wilson's career. But then I also want to be able to go out there and get a head coach that can show me that, they can build it the right way in the draft, which Pete Carroll was able to do. Again, 10 years ago, a lot of different things have changed, but I would look for a quality in a head coach based on what they've done in the past with a lot of quarterbacks, what they've done in the past building an overall team, and what they've done just building that offense, man. So let's talk about Deion Sanders because he's been able to build some pretty incredible shit in Colorado, whether you're a Deion fan, whether you're not. What do you say? And he has suited up as well, right? I know a lot of the Raiders coaches that they brought in on the defensive side of the football were past players. But Deion's played, and Deion has coached at a high level in college. He's played at the highest level in the NFL. My question out here to the nation is this. Would you want the Raiders to hire Deion Sanders? Give me a yes. Give me a no. Also, if you haven't voted yet, the live poll, 51% say they would take Pete Carroll. 49% say other. Raider Willie says no. Juan Hernandez, no. Bo Knows says, what about Ron Rivera? They interviewed him, but I think it was more of just a Rooney Rule hire, if you will. Jay Castro says no. Gruden is a terrible idea. Keanu Fourth says yes. Jeremy Cole says no. I would say right now 80% of the votes coming in are for no. We're going to talk about Deion Sanders a little bit here today. Let's go to Jay Castro. Carroll with Waldron and Bradley doesn't inspire. So what you're saying Pete Carroll, Shane Waldron, and then what, Gus Bradley? I don't think that they're going to bring back Gus Bradley. I know Bradley for 1 year back in 2021 was a good defensive coordinator for the Raiders, and they kind of had that perfect system overall. But yeah, Gus Bradley's got a lot of ties to Pete. Those two go way back in Seattle. Waldron, He was the offensive coordinator in Seattle, and then he went to Chicago. He just got fired. I don't think that this would be the regime that they would bring in, if I'm being honest with you. Like, these aren't a lot of the names that I have been hearing, though I get the connection. But I'm telling you this right now, if you told me it was Pete Carroll, Shane Waldron, and Gus Bradley, I'd be pretty disappointed in Tom Brady, and I'd be pretty disappointed in Mark Davis for kind of falling into their trap, which is, and I don't know, maybe if it's just the Raiders organization. We see it from Raiders fans all the time. I don't know why people fall in love with a past coach. It's like they just fall in love. Like the amount of times I hear Jack Del Rio, who he actually just got a head coaching job somewhere at like a lower level. I feel like it was like overseas or something like that, like coaching some football. I saw it pop up on my phone. I was like, oh, shit, that's kind of interesting. But, like, you know, we always hear John Gruden's name. Like, that's just idiotic to me, right? Like, why are we bringing up past guys? What do you say? He just got a job, and I can't think of what it is.
He is the head coach for the Paris Musketeers.
The Paris Musketeers.
The Paris Musketeers.
I wonder what there's. I mean, if the Philadelphia Eagles, they ran, basically like the Statue of Liberty. Do you think they just run the Eiffel Tower over there? Let's go to Eric. What up, man? Let's get Pete as a head coach, Liam Cohen as an OC, and then Robert Saleh, Brian Flores as a DC. Eric, I mean, this would be an incredible group. However, though, and I don't like to say anything's never going to happen, but this is never going to happen, right? Like, why is Liam Cohen going to leave his offensive coordinator position for the Bucs and then be the Raiders OC, right? Like, the only way Liam Cohen's going to leave is if we make him the head coach. Though, based on a lot of the reports right now from Jacksonville, Liam, he has an interview Wednesday with the Jags. Patrick Graham interviews on Thursday, and then Robert Saleh interviews on Friday. Based on a lot of the reports, sounds like they want Liam Cohen to be that OC. Then Robert Saleh could be the DC, no doubt. But Brian Flores is not going to leave the Minnesota Vikings to be the Raiders DC unless there is a clause in that contract, and maybe it's similar to the contract clause that was like in Bill Belichick's, where then they just hired Gerard Mayo right away, where maybe then you could get a guy like Brian Flores. Maybe then you could get a guy like Robert Saleh. Let's go to Thugador. Our crush got took. Now we got a rebound. And I don't want to use the word rebound here because I don't want the Raiders to fall into the trap that they fell in last year, where they wanted Cliff Kingsbury. They thought they had him, and then all of a sudden it was ripped right out from underneath them, right? And then they panicked, and they thought that they had the love of their life in Cliff Kingsbury. They panicked. They didn't want to be single. And then they fell in love with, I think, the first person that they saw, because that's the only way Luke Getsy makes any sense to me. And I don't want the Raiders to try to rebound. I want the Raiders to handle the breakup the best way they can, take their time, and then when they're ready to make the proper decision, you try to go out there and you fall in love again with the perfect head coach. But rebound and acting quick, it shot the Raiders in the foot last season. Let's go to Tyler Fireblade. What a name. Draft Genty, sign Cousins to develop a second-round quarterback. I guess my question is, why do this with Cousins, right? You're probably going to have to pay Kirk Cousins, let's say, $25 million per year. Yeah. It's a little bit too much money for what I would want to pay a guy that showed that he really fell off at the end of the season. I mean, he had 1 touchdown and like 11 interceptions in his final 5 games, and that Achilles looked like it, kind of impacted him a little bit.
It was his Achilles heel.
It was his Achilles heel, some could say. But also, it was very well reported that when the Falcons drafted Michael Penix Jr. at number 8, Cousins was not happy about it. So I think if you're going to bring in a Cousins, I don't know if it's the best option to develop a quarterback. Realistically, the best option that the Raiders could do if you want to develop a QB, if we are legitimately looking at this year as a gap year, I don't think Aiden O'Connell is the worst idea at $1.2 million simply because I could make an argument that I could build a better overall roster with Aiden O'Connell at $1.2 million compared to you giving Kirk Cousins, let's say, $25 to $30 million a year. I believe I can build a better roster with Aiden at 1.2 than Kirk Cousins at 30. Let's go to B.A. Marcus. Why are we overlooking Mike McCarthy? I have no idea, B.A. We're going to talk about Mike McCarthy today because McCarthy is a top 32 head coach in the league, right? If McCarthy was a quarterback, we would be like, how is this guy not a starting quarterback? And I think the McCarthy thing is very similar to the Mike Vrabel thing. But I agree where McCarthy has to be a name to keep in mind, and I did a video on this last week, and I get it. A lot of shit gets missed, and when all your eyes are on Ben Johnson, and every video that I put out that wasn't Ben Johnson, people were like, oh, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. I get it. But Mike McCarthy also did something last week, and I don't know how many people recognize this. McCarthy, when he got, I guess, let go by the Dallas Cowboys, the very first thing that he did, he hired a new agent. Do you know who that agent is? His name is Don Yee. Don Yee, okay? Don Yee is Tom Brady's agent. Like, I just find it interesting. And McCarthy's got to be a name. But to me, if you were the Raiders, and if Tom Brady was interested in Mike Vrabel, which he was interested in Mike Vrabel and Mike McCarthy to me are very, very similar mindsets of coaching, where Vrabel's more defense, McCarthy might be a little bit more on the offensive side, but still like the same style of head coach. And it's why I sit here and I go, if the Raiders were interested in a young offensive-minded guy in Ben Johnson, why aren't we trying to interview Liam Cohen? Why aren't we trying to interview a guy like Joe Brady? Why aren't we trying to interview a guy like Cliff Kingsbury? Because if you're interested in one thing, why aren't we interested in it's basically the exact same situation? Let's go to Thug It Or. I would want Deion because it guarantees Shador. If not, then I wouldn't. And I agree with you, Thug. Like, if you told me I just get Deion Sanders and I don't get Shador, not interested at all. Here's my question to everybody that's tuned in, because we almost got 1,800 people watching this live show. Deion Sanders says the only way that he's coming to the NFL is if he can coach his sons, right? And if the only way that he can coach his sons, and the fact that he's interested in the Raiders job, oh my goodness. Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel interviewed Josh McDaniels today for the OC job. It's not a surprise at all. It's just, I don't know, I saw Josh McDaniels' name pop up and my heart sunk a little bit. But if by Deion telling you he wants to be the Raiders head coach, that tells me he wants Shador to go to the Raiders, right? Like, that makes sense. Also, Shiloh would come with him as well. My last question to you, Thug, and everybody out there, why for yes and for no? If Deion could figure out a way to get all of his sons, and Deion considers Travis Hunter his son. If Travis Hunter, Shador Sanders, and Shiloh said, we're all going to come to the Raiders.
My brother from another mother.
Would you change your mind? Because at this point, for Deion to say, I'm interested in the job, and it was reported the Raiders aren't interested, if I'm Deion Sanders, I go, hey, you missed on Ben Johnson. Not only am I going to bring Shador, I'm going to bring Travis. And there's going to be a lot of people that are like, oh, there's no way the NFL could allow that. There's no way it would ever happen. If there's ever been a person that has the power to make it happen, I think it's Deion Sanders. Let's go to the next one coming in here, man. Raider Nation Adventures with JC. What's up, my man? A wise man once told me, where there's smoke, there's fire. And Coach Prime is starting to look more and more like the best move, especially if we're trying to get a franchise quarterback. And I don't want to give away my entire show here, JC, and you're talking about smoke and fire, and Chuggs and I still talk about, you know what I'm talking about.
Your smoke.
Yeah, so, like,
with our fire.
My question is, because the Raiders missed out, right, on the Raiders beat reporters, let's be honest, huge swing and a miss on Ben Johnson, took the L. Do you then, because that was such a big swing and a miss, do you believe the Raiders, according to the Raiders beat writers, are not interested in a guy like Deion? Like, now I go back and I look at that report, and it's going to be a show that I talk about today, and I go, well, I don't know how real that was, right? Or was that the Raiders beat writers just putting that out because it was the day after Ben Johnson, and all the information that they got was the day after Ben, and their eyes were set on Johnson? Like, I really think that the entire nation, that the Raiders need to revisit the Deion Sanders rumors simply because of how big of a swing and a miss the beat reporters were on Ben Johnson. Like, if that light bulb didn't go off in your head a little bit, I hope that us having this conversation, again, it's not a knock on the beat writers. It is just what happened. And that, to me, was one of the very first things that I thought about. What up, Gutierrez? I refuse to get any more BJs because of Ben Johnson. I mean, I'll tell you this, Steven, you're a lot stronger of a man than I am because, quite frankly, I've already tried to cave twice. I'm 0 for 2, but maybe when Alex gets back from New York. What up, Sprout? I want someone young who wants to come. What?
I don't think you said that right.
What? I'm 0 for 2 in my last 2 tries. Maybe I'll get lucky when Alex comes back from New York.
So.
What? I tried before she went on her flight.
Oh, okay.
She took the job in New York, basically.
No, you were saying while she's been gone, I'm 0 for 2.
Oh, Yeah, that's not true. She just left this morning. I mean,
needed some clarification there.
Yeah, I saw one guy try to do that with a toothbrush here at Chat Sports, and that'd be the only way it's going to happen. Cameron, I want someone young who wants to come here and build this thing, but Davis has to be patient. I agree with I want somebody young, and I want somebody to be able to build this thing, and Davis has to be patient. You know, again, Deion literally said, I want the job. I think that deserves to be recognized a little bit, and he's not the best candidate out there. He's not. But, like, if you're going to go with somebody that's a team builder, and that's kind of like what Pete Carroll's best quality is, I would say, at this point of a head coach, is he's somebody that's shown you he can build something. I mean, Deion showed you he can build something. Like, I think if you want Pete, you should also be open to the idea of Deion, and Deion means way, way more money than Pete Carroll does. Iova, aggressive take, sign Todd Monken, head coach, draft Genti in the first, Milroe in the second, then draft as you need, start Milroe day one, but sign Fields to be a backup if Milroe doesn't start off good. But if he does, then you hit the jackpot. I think this is an interesting idea, and again, it's been an idea that I've thrown out there before. The only thing that I would disagree with is Justin Fields compared to Jalen Milroe. Fields is much better of a quarterback right now than what Milroe is, and I wouldn't want to just throw Milroe out there to the fire because he's just not ready from an NFL QB standpoint, where I think it would make way more sense to put Fields out there for a year, maybe two, and then you let a guy like Jalen Milroe come in here and figure out a way to get it going. I will say this, if you bring in Todd Monken, I do really think that one name that needs to also be thrown out there, depending on the whole situation, because there's a lot of stuff moving on in Pittsburgh, Arthur Smith. And you know, Arthur Smith is not a sexy name for some people, but he's got a similar philosophy on the type of offense he likes to run, and it's very similar to Todd Monken, and he has that connection right now. He's the OC with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's go to John Rodriguez. Mitch, if Mark wants to put butts in seats, he needs Deion Sanders. No other coach can attract fans like Deion. I don't disagree. I think if you want to put butts in seats, and if you're going to charge the highest ticket prices in the NFL, and Mark raised the ticket prices yet again this season, but I don't disagree with you. But like, you bring in Deion, and that ticket price is going to go up higher. It's not like Mark's not going to look at his ticket prices right now and go out and hire Deion and then not change it. Like, I think Deion's going to take the ticket prices up even higher. Yeah, there's going to be a lot more TV coverage, and we are going to talk a lot, and I mean a lot, about Deion, because I completely agree with you where if you want to make money and if you want to make more money than ever and build that Raiders brand, Deion can be that guy, win or lose. Quite frankly, I think the least risky thing the Raiders could do is going out and hire Deion, because you get a quarterback right from the jump. You're going to be able to sell a lot of money, and if it doesn't work, I know Mark probably doesn't care that he's still paying 3 head coaches and he's paying 3 GMs, but the amount of money that Mark would make and the Raiders would make from hiring Deion, like the money that he's paying those other guys, he's going to be able to make that money really quick. Like the term Mark Davis is cash poor, Mark Davis is one of the poorer owners, will be gone in I think less than a year because of what the impact Deion would have. And I got a lot of numbers and a lot of stats, John, around what you're talking about here. Let's go to Darian. What up, bro? What's up, Mitch? I'm not sure if you watched the Pivot podcast, but Nick Saban said that if he coaches again, it would be the NFL over college. Any chance he gets a call from the Raiders? You know, I don't want to ever say that it's impossible. Also, there is a deal that just went down. It's around the Minnesota Vikings, and the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell have just agreed to terms on a multi-year contract extension. So Kevin O'Connell's got a contract extension in Minnesota, which I do find kind of interesting. And Nick Saban kind of falls in that other, like, really big name. Like, real talk, Nick Saban or Pete Carroll, I would pick Nick Saban. If you told me right now Nick Saban is interested in the Raiders head coaching job, I take him over anyone. I really do. You want to talk about a culture builder, and I know Saban struggled in the NFL before. But if you're interested in Pete Carroll, why the hell would you not be interested in Nick Saban? It's interesting. I think it's interesting. I know, I don't watch the Pivot podcast. If y'all are ready to get this show started, Chuggs wants 500 likes. We got 2,000 people here in the building right now. And Ron Raspberry's like, what are these numbers? Let's get those likes up here a little bit. Believe me, I woke up this morning and I said, I'm still a little bit hurt about Ben Johnson. Let's not act like we're not. But we got to be able to move forward. We got to be able to continue to have this thing moving in the right direction. But quite frankly, I couldn't wait to do today's live show. I couldn't wait because I knew I had a lot of people asking me questions yesterday. And, when we did the Ohio State-Notre Dame game live, we were still getting some questions there. But there's still been a lot to be able to digest. There's been a lot to be able to figure out and wrap your mind around. But I was excited to do today's live show because, we're going to get a little bit wild today. We're going to throw out some crazy, crazy ideas, and that's what we like to do. What up, Ant? What up, Steven Gutierrez?
Sign Jamarcus Russell as a tush-push specialist.
I mean, that Jamarcus Russell, horrible idea. But bringing in a quarterback to be a tush-push specialist should be something that every single NFL team does. I mean, it is such an advantage when you have a quarterback that you know that they're going to be able to pick up that 3rd and 1, that 4th and 1, and that you can, kind of plan accordingly leading up to that standpoint. I mean, I agree where if I'm the Raiders, I try to figure out a way. If I'm any NFL team, I figure out a way to keep that extra QB. Maybe it's a tight end on your roster, right? Like, train somebody because
Will Howard.
Why am I going to keep 6 linebackers?
Riley Leonard.
See, I would want somebody bigger and better.
Just a tush-push guy. We are 50 likes away.
I'm actually trying to think of who do I think could be the perfect tush-push quarterback.
Jameis.
Jameis is a hell of a tush-push QB. And, if you need a good pregame speech, he's going to be bringing that fire. He's going to be bringing that fire. I love it, man.
Bo Nix?
No, I'm good on Bo. You could offer me right now Bo Nix, and I wouldn't take him. I'm okay on that. Again, I don't know who the OC would be, and I think Bo's got the perfect marriage right now with Sean Payton. Raider Shep says Justin Fields. I kind of think Justin Fields would be almost a perfect tush-push QB, but that could also be an actual QB.
Jalen Hurts?
These are real quarterbacks, though. I'm talking a guy where you're like Joe Milton. We always talk about Joe Milton. I actually think Joe Milton would be a good tush-push QB. Somebody who I don't think is talented enough to be an everyday starter, but you're all right, that's a big body guy. Anthony Richardson, maybe 2 or 3 years. He's not going to have a long-term job, I don't think. He stinks.
Joe Flacco?
See, now you're just trying to ruffle my feathers here a little bit. All right, I do see a few more Super Chats coming in. We will get to those after the first segment here on today's show, which we are 1 like away from Chuggs hitting that start button. So the way that today's live show is going to go is this. I'm going to talk about Deion Sanders because, quite frankly, I think it needs to be revisited, these conversations. And then the final show here on today's live program, Raiders head coach candidates, but it's completely different than any way I've ever done a Raiders head coach candidates before. I'm not counting from 10 to 1. I'm throwing a whole bunch of information at you in a little bit of a different way. Chuggs, I think we're ready to rock and roll. You guys? Coming up here today on the Raiders Report, we need to revisit the Deion Sanders to Las Vegas conversation. I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and the only reason why that I say this is this. 2 big reasons. The Raiders beat reporters did say there was 0 interest in Coach Prime back on January 10th, the day after the Raiders interviewed Ben Johnson. The only reason why I think that this conversation needs to be revisited is 1, the Raiders are no longer in the Ben Johnson sweepstakes, and 2, I hate saying it, but it's just the truth, with how bad the beat writers and beat reporters missed on the Ben Johnson story, I don't think it's fair to just say, oh, there's 0 interest according to the beat writers. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going back and I'm looking at everything that was reported in the last week, and I'm going to go, how true is that? How true is that? I'm at least going to revisit the idea, and I'm going to think about it just a little bit. So I'm going to give you guys the opportunity here to call the shots. You're sitting in a room with Mark Davis. You're sitting down with Tom Brady, and they go, do you think that the Raiders should be interested in Deion Sanders? If you think yes, they should be, I want you to type Prime down below. If you're like, nah, man, we should not be interested in Deion Sanders, I want you to type nah. And one of the things that I find very interesting about The Athletic and about, a lot of the things that they said is, I want you to look at this quote because this is a real quote from The Athletic that they put out on January 12th. And it says this. There have been some buzz about University of Colorado head coach Deion Sanders, But the Raiders have zero interest in hiring him, according to a league source. Look at this last sentence. Agents using the stubbornly quiet Raiders for leverage goes as far back as the franchise is losing. I mean, in the report where they literally say that there's no interest in Deion, they also talk about how agents are using the Raiders to give leverage to another team. Like, I think when you see everything that's been reported now around the Ben Johnson situation, I don't mean to feel like I feel, kind of duped by the beat writers, but this was a situation where nobody thought Ben Johnson was even going to be a possibility. And then all these reports start coming in from these Raiders guys, whether it's Vinny or Hondo, and it made it sound like we were going to be able to figure out a way to go out and get Ben Johnson. Quite frankly, I think the Raiders beat writers got worked for leverage for Chicago, especially because Johnson shows up at the Bears facility today and he goes, "This is where we always wanted to be." So if there was zero interest then, but yet you were interested in Ben Johnson, all I'm saying is we have to revisit Deion to the Las Vegas Raiders. And here's why I'm saying it. If I knew there was a reason I missed out on my top candidate, I think by everything, Tom Brady, Mark Davis, the number one candidate they wanted was Ben Johnson. If I was a NFL executive, if I was a pizza guy, I don't care what your job is, if you found out the number one reason why you missed out on your top candidate, wouldn't you try to fix that issue? Every good organization, every good company, every good football team would try to fix that situation. And according to Diana Rossini, it's not rocket science. The reason why Ben Johnson ended up picking the Chicago Bears over the Raiders, it was plain and simple, it was due to quarterback. So if you knew by hiring Deion Sanders, you also know that you're going to get Shedeur Sanders. If you're the Las Vegas Raiders and you don't want to correct the number one issue that you have right now, the number one issue why you didn't get Mike Vrabel, why he didn't even give you an interview, why you didn't get Ben Johnson, why he was never even legitimately considering it, wouldn't you try to fix that issue? To me, this is why I think that you need to revisit the Deion conversation, because it guarantees you Shedeur Sanders. It guarantees you being able to go out and get a quarterback. I do actually wonder if the Raiders don't win those two meaningless games against the Saints and against the Jags and they have the number one pick, are we sitting here going Ben Johnson is the Las Vegas Raiders head coach? I think that there is at least a chance. But since you missed on Ben Johnson, could you reach out to Deion now? Because we also know that Deion is interested in this job. And the fact that he is interested in this job, I love the fact that when somebody wants to be a Raider, when they want to rock that shield, when they want to rock with that silver and black, it means something different. I also did tell myself that I would think with my head and not my heart because I fell in love with AP last season because he was a Raider, right? But Deion, this conversation needs to be revisited because we missed on Ben Johnson, because he can correct our biggest issue right away, guaranteed with a quarterback, and because the beat writers were so wrong on the Ben Johnson story, I don't think that we can just say that they are 100% right on the zero interest report on Deion Sanders. So here's what I want y'all to do. If you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button. Make sure your noties are turned on when the Raiders do end up hiring a head coach. I'll be live for it. Anytime we get an update, I promise you I will put out a video. My fiance Alex is in New York for the entire week, which means you guys are going to get more content than what I usually provide because I'm going to be at home and I'm going to be looking for things to do and I'm going to be pumping out a lot. But not only can we do news and rumors, if you want somebody that's not afraid to give you their opinion, that's not afraid to give a hot take, that's what I do here. I give my opinion, I tell you what I'm hearing, and that's what the Raiders Report is all about. You know what's also not a secret? It's not a secret that Tom Brady and the Raiders are interested in Shedeur Sanders. So why not go guarantee that you can go get him? Like, it's not like we don't know that Shedeur has worked with Tom Brady. It's not like that we don't know the Raiders need a quarterback. So we don't need to act like it's a secret. So coming up here on the show, I'm going to sit up and I'm going to tell all of y'all why the Raiders could be interested in Deion. I'm not saying they are interested in Deion. I'm simply going to paint that picture of after you missed out on Ben Johnson, why the Raiders could be interested in Deion Sanders. And quite frankly, I think Tom Brady, Mark Davis, Jed Hughes needs to at least pick up the phone, give Deion a call, and let him shoot his shot. Bring him in for an interview. Talk to him. What I don't want is a You missed on Cliff Kingsbury and you hop into bed with the very next guy in Luke Getsy. I don't need a rebound. Take your time. Let's fall in love with the right head coach candidate. That's what the Raiders need to do. I'm going to tell you why the Raiders could be interested in Deion Sanders, and I think by the end of the show, you're going to go, I kind of want the Raiders to hire Deion Sanders. Before I get into that, though, huge shout out to our sponsor, Game Time. Mark, you want to pack your stadium full with screaming Raider fans? Deion Sanders is the number one way to do that. I know ticket prices might go up, but luckily Game Time is going to help all of y'all get that lowest price guaranteed. And Game Time is focused on bringing people together in 2025 to create those lasting memories, which is why I love Game Time. Game Time also has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't waste time searching through thousands of tickets. What I love about using the Game Time app is that you get that lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event. All-in prices so you don't get slapped with crazy fees at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. If you're wondering what time is it, it's Game Time. And real talk, like, if you're thinking about trying to go to the big game, Game Time is going to be where it's at. Chuggs and I were live yesterday on Notre Dame and Ohio State, and we were like showing people the ticket prices and how the whole Game Time thing worked. If you're planning on trying to go to the big game, I would say wait maybe an hour or two just in case not all the tickets end up selling. Coming up here, why the Raiders could be interested in Deion Sanders. And I have this broken down into 5 reasons. And one of the reasons, again, that I think the Raiders could be, it's because the beat reporter said that there's zero interest. I mean, I think that there could be some interest just based on the reporting. So here's the first reason of why the Raiders could be interested in Deion. He wants the job. I don't care about anybody. When I want a job, I do everything that I possibly can to make that job work. When I wanted to work here at Chat Sports, when I wanted to make the Raiders report what it is today, I grind, man. You go out there and you do everything necessary. And the fact that he's going to take his son there is even more important, not only for his legacy, but also for his son's legacy. And it's not, Deion literally put out himself, and his team reached out to the Raiders and said that he is very interested in the job. Sanders also showed interest after Ben Johnson's interview on the 9th. So the Raiders on Friday, over the Zoom interview with Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson. The next day, that report comes out around Deion, and the Raiders quickly shut it down. I think one of the reasons why the Raiders quickly shut it down, if it is true, is because they were like, no, we want to keep all of our attention on Ben Johnson, right? Like, it's you falling in love, getting married, and then some other girl's like, well, I also think you're attractive. You're like, no, I'm not interested in you. I want to get married to this. Even if the Raiders were not interested then, are they not interested now because you don't have Ben Johnson? Let's go to the next reason of why you could hire Deion. Shedeur Sanders. Like, you can fix your biggest issue right from the jump, quarterback. And you're picking at number 6. I think you can just take Shedeur Sanders at number 6, if I'm being real. Like, there's not going to be a team that drafts Shedeur, because at the end of the draft, what's going to happen is Deion's going to call Shedeur, and Shedeur's going to say, I want to be traded. So you bring Shedeur Sanders in. You know you need a quarterback, and it's a quarterback that's literally worked with Tom Brady. If Deion Sanders was just any other name, right? If Deion Sanders' name was Todd Monken, and Todd Monken, okay, I don't know, wanted to coach Shedeur Sanders, and if we knew that Tom Brady and Shedeur Sanders also worked together, we would talk about that candidate a lot. Shedeur and Tom Brady have a relationship, and Johnson took the Bears job because of a quarterback. So you could already go out and get a QB, because what I am worried about is, what if an OC doesn't want this job because there's no quarterback? What if a good quarterback coach doesn't want this job because you have no quarterback? If you knew from the jump Deion got the job, I think you'd be able to really entice better offensive coordinator coaches, better quarterback coaches, better offensive staff, because they know right from the jump they're getting a quarterback that Tom Brady has worked with and has seen that QB get better and better and better every single season. Let's go to another reason here of why you could hire Deion. He wants to coach his sons. And I put sons here in quote because Shedeur and Shiloh would be Raiders. We need a quarterback? Cool. Helps out a need. Honestly, we need safety help as well. Trevon Merrick's a free agent. Isaiah Paul-Mal's a free agent. You got a guy in Marcus Epps, free agent. So whether you think Shiloh, and I don't think Shiloh is going to be a starting safety, But Shiloh is a good chemistry builder, a good glue guy in a locker room. It's been very well documented, and it could help us get some extra depth at a position that we need. Here's where it gets interesting. Deion also considers Travis Hunter to be his son. I don't know if it's possible, but could Deion figure out a way to not only get Shiloh and Shedeur, could he also figure out a way to bring in Travis Hunter? And you might say it's impossible. You might say it's never going to happen. If there's one guy that's been able to prove that he can get it done, I think you got to say it's Deion. The fact that Travis Hunter picked Jackson State, the #1 recruit in the country, took Jackson State over Alabama, over Georgia, over Texas, over Ohio State, over Michigan to go with Deion. You're telling me right now if Deion looked at Travis Hunter and said, you want to go run this thing in Las Vegas? Travis Hunter's not going to want to do that? You're telling me a guy that has literally given Hunter everything in terms of his career? Hunter's unbelievably gifted, but no coach would have let Hunter, I think, play both ways the way that Deion did. And I think Deion might actually let Travis Hunter play both ways in the NFL as well, where I don't know if another NFL team would do it. I know it is and it's an absolutely insane idea. But if I told you right now, the Las Vegas Raiders, if they hire Deion, because if I'm Deion, I'm going, you said no to me before, you're not interested. All right, let's make this deal a little bit better. What if I could guarantee you I'm going to get Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders and Shiloh? I know people are going to yell tampering. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Deion Sanders can get it done because he's gotten it done every step of the way. And his relationship with Travis Hunter, Shiloh, and Shedeur, they're his sons. And I think that they would want to go play with Deion as well. Let's go to another reason here. He is a program builder. The #1 reason why I could see the Raiders being interested in going out and hiring a dude like Pete Carroll, and according to reports, Pete Carroll's the front runner. It's because Pete was able to build a program. Jed Hughes has a relationship with Pete Carroll, but also at the same time, like, if all you're looking for is a guy that can build a program, Sanders was able to do it. Is coaching in the NFL and college completely different? Yeah, no doubt about it. But we have to give Deion credit where credit is due. Jackson State never had an 11-win season before Sanders shows up. He goes 11-2, 12-1, doesn't lose in conference. Colorado was 1-11 in 2022. Sure, they struggled in year one with Deion. They go 4-8, but in then just 1 year, he gets a bunch of new players in the transfer portal, gets an awesome left tackle to protect Shedeur, and then they go 9-4. But the 9-4 Colorado team, the improvement that they showed in just 1 year, monumental. They get one of the top quarterback recruits. I believe the #2 quarterback recruit in the country decided to go to Colorado. Why? Because he wants to be a part of Deion. What Deion is building in Colorado is absolutely, positively unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And then the final reason is this. The dollar bills, y'all. Mark cares about money. Tom Brady cares about money. Everybody cares about money. And if you want to assure that you're going to be able to pay off those past head coaches, those past GMs, and if you want the safest hire Mark Davis can do, if is actually Deion, because of, I think even if it's a complete failure, Deion's going to make Mark Davis so much money that Mark's going to go, I made my money back and then some. Like, look at these numbers here, what Deion was able to do for Colorado. The fact that this team was the 9th highest, and this is based on college football streaming numbers per game. Colorado is above teams like Penn State. They are above big-time programs out there, and they're competing with the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Ohio States. Like, they're getting more viewership than Texas A&M. You're right there with LSU, a team that was 1-11 just a few years ago. I mean, look at this quote from USA Today. The Coach Prime effect of Sanders hiring helped lead the department to a record $146.6 million in reported revenue and a record $31.2 million in football ticket sales, which is roughly double the previous school record. What Deion has been able to build, he's been able to build it on the field. But the amount of money that the Raiders would make from getting Deion, I often say this. I think if Deion's the head coach of the Raiders, there's a chance that, we always say, oh, the Cowboys are America's team. And I know just even saying that makes my skin crawl. But there's a chance, I think, if the Raiders were to hire Deion Sanders, that you could see the Raiders kind of turn into like that next America's team because people are going to follow him. The media is going to follow him. And when you see money Guess who cares about money? The NFL cares about money. Like, I think one of the reasons why we're always sick and tired of the Chiefs getting all these calls is because whether you like it or not, the refs are helping out Kansas City in some way or fashion, because I think the NFL knows when Kansas City plays, they're going to get a lot of eyeballs, and there is a Taylor Swift impact there. Like, there is. Like, there's more people watching Chiefs because of Taylor Swift, because of Travis Kelce. So there is a part of me where I go, yeah, I don't really agree with the idea of bringing in Deion if it's just Deion. But the NFL would want the Raiders to be great. The NFL wants Tom Brady already to be good. The NFL would want Deion Sanders to be good, because I'm telling you this, the NFL just had a record. ESPN the other day just had a record, 32.7 million viewers in that Chiefs and Texans game. If you put Deion Sanders in a playoff game, it's going to blow those numbers out of the water. You put Deion Sanders on any NFL team, on any primetime game, it's going to blow those numbers out of the water. So the fact that the NFL would want Deion Sanders to be great because it means more money for them, there's a part of me that wonders, could the Raiders actually be good because they're going to get some of that help that we see the Chiefs get, because the NFL would want Deion Sanders to be great in Las Vegas? Because Deion and Tom Brady, I do think, makes more money than any other team out there in the National Football League. So if you enjoyed today's show, I want you to share this video on social media and tag me at Mitchell Renz 365, IG, Twitter, wherever it is. Make sure that you tag me. And I'm not trying to ruffle feathers of beat reporters out there. I respect Vic. I respect Tashawn. I respect Hondo. I respect Vinny. But we have to look at the facts. The facts are this. Our beat writers missed drastically on the Ben Johnson story. So why are we just saying that the zero interest report is 100% true? All I'm saying is let's revisit it, because I don't think it's absolutely impossible. And quite frankly, I think Deion Sanders, the Raiders could do a lot worse than hiring him. Is it worth it to give Deion Sanders the bag if you also get Shedeur Sanders? Yes or no? Let me know down below. What do you think, Chuck?
I mean, yeah. I think to get Shedeur,
it's an interesting idea.
I liked a lot of what you were spitting. You were cooking in there.
Yeah, dude, my screen is covered. It's just a disaster.
The only thing I just don't see any possibility of is Travis Hunter and Shedeur.
Sure.
There's no way.
See, you say no way, and I don't know. I mean, what if Travis Hunter said that he wanted to go play with Deion?
But then
you still have to make the trade.
But yeah, you'd have to trade into the top 5.
I'm saying, like, if Travis Hunter gets selected by the Tennessee Titans, the Raiders are able to get Shedeur at 6, right? Let's just say that. After the draft, Travis Hunter goes, I want to go play for the Raiders.
But just imagine NFL owners would never let that happen. Because just think, that means any year, anybody you draft, if they're high profile enough, they could just say, I'm not playing for that team, and sit out and get traded.
They can. It's already been done. Manning's already done it. Like, it's not like something that's never happened. It's not like something that can't happen. And NFL owners won't have power over it. We are looking at a new NFL. I mean, it's the fact players have more power now than they've ever had before.
I'm just saying they won't let it happen, because if you let it happen multiple times and it becomes something that where it's a norm, how are the Tennessee Titans ever going to be good?
I don't think it will become a norm. And I don't think Deion Sanders is the norm. I think that that's the asterisk where, and if you have somebody like Arch Manning, for example.
So what are the Raiders trading for in this hypothetical to the Titans? What are the Raiders trading?
Probably a first-round pick next year. It sucks.
It would be more. You'd have to. If I'm the Titans, I'm asking for your next 3 first-round picks.
Of course you would. But if you're the Raiders and you know Travis Hunter wants to go there, I don't think you have to give it up. In that situation, it sucks for Tennessee.
It's just like that's.
I hear you.
That's like me being like, you know what? How about we sign Brittany Mahomes as the OC, so then Patrick Mahomes says, I won't play for Kansas City, and forces a trade. Like, that's like,
everything that you're saying makes 100% sense.
That's why I said it.
I know, but then on the other side, though, you also got to look at the other side where it can happen.
It's just like saying, like, a meteor could hit this building. Of course it could happen.
Sure.
Is it going to? No.
And I don't think that those two are even close to the same. I mean, we've already seen that a meteor hit the building, right? We've already seen Eli Manning do exactly what we're talking about here. We've already seen it happen.
But that was one player.
Yep.
In NFL history of the thousands of players that have gotten picked.
Correct.
And that was to a team that was one pick behind them.
You know why he was? But it's because of the last name, Manning.
But that's different.
I think Sanders has more pull than the Manning.
If the Raiders had 2 top 10 picks, then I would say, yeah, that makes sense. But saying like, oh yeah, the team's just gonna give Travis Hunter up for pennies on the dollar.
I mean, if Travis Hunter says he's not going to play, like we see it all the time, like with a guy. I mean, we see it with players that demand trades all the time. If you demand a trade and you're like, get me the hell out of there, only certain players can do it. Like, and I don't think players do it because they're worried about their reputation. They're worried about that. Like, and it's a very fair thing to say. But Travis Hunter has followed Deion, and I actually think that there would be a situation where people would go, yeah, I don't blame Travis for doing it. Because he would want to play both sides of the ball. He would want to follow Deion, and he would want to continue his career that way.
If you allow that to Travis Hunter, what's saying next year the top prospect in the NFL draft loves Deion Sanders, and he can't do the same exact thing?
I understand that.
Exactly. The other 31 owners are going to say, yeah, screw that. I'm not going to have it to where every guy I draft has a choice on whether or not he comes to my team. The NFL, because it's between the NFL owners, the NFLPA, they come together, collective bargaining agreement. They're not going to allow it to where every single year you can choose whether or not you want to play to the team you get drafted by. That's a horrible precedent to set. To say, it doesn't matter who drafts you. At the end of the day, you get the choice. That defeats the whole purpose of the draft. At that point, we should just have a free agency. Because the whole point of the draft is you go play for whoever picks you. If you are undermining that whole situation, then the draft means nothing.
I don't disagree with you.
There shouldn't be a draft.
I do not disagree with you at all. I don't disagree with you. But I think this is a different situation. It is. Like, you can't say every player has the same value as a name as a Travis Hunter and Shedeur when they're tied with Deion. Like, let's be real. I love Deion. I think Deion is doing an amazing, amazing job in Colorado. And quite frankly, I think Deion should try to stay at Colorado. Like, and I'm not afraid to say that. But I also can't blame the guy for wanting to coach his sons, right? Like, I get both sides of it.
And on the other side of that, on the flip side of it, you're like, if you're the Raiders, you're giving up all, like, say you do give up the whole farm for Shedeur and Travis. You're giving up the whole farm for 2 guys who couldn't even make the college football playoff.
And again, maybe this is where
they couldn't do it at the collegiate level.
The Raiders won't have to give it up though. Like, and that's the thing where I don't think the Raiders, if you have Deion as head coach, you're not going to have to trade up for Shedeur. Like, you're just going to be able to get him at 6.
I just don't think you're going to be allowed to get everybody with pennies on the dollar.
And it's not. I don't think it's a matter of being allowed to do it. I think it would be a situation where
I don't think teams.
I think every NFL team going into the draft would know the risk. Like, if I'm Deion and I wanted that to happen, I would tell everybody out there, just warning you, if you draft Travis Hunter, he's going to want to come play for the Raiders. That warning's out there. It's just like any warning with like Jalen Carter. Teams can pass on him if you want him, but hey, he could end up being a great player. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
John
Rodriguez.
I feel like it is very, very unlikely for that to happen.
It is unlikely, but it's not impossible. And if there's one guy that can do it, I think it could be Deion. John, get Carter in the first, Milroe in the second is ideal situation for us. I mean, I like Milroe a lot. Carter, I guess to me, like, I would still want to know your entire plan here, but to me, if you're going to go out and get a guy like Milroe, you gotta make sure that your offensive line is the best offensive line it could possibly be, and it needs to be a physical offensive line, an offensive line that you're okay having your quarterback go out there run 10 to 12 times a game. Cameron, what up, man? Is there a Sean McVay out there?
I mean, I feel like everybody would sign him if there was.
I mean, to be honest, I think the Sean McVay just went to Chicago, which is one of the reasons why I was so excited about him.
Point.
But, like, you know, we've seen guys get it wrong. We've seen dudes that you thought, are going to be slam dunks, and they end up, not being slam dunks at all. But, like, I do think that Mike LaFleur, the OC right now for the Rams, when you just see how many other good guys have come from that Sean McVay tree, and LaFleur's obviously got a lot of ties to himself, could be another name to at least throw out there. Let's go to Steve. What up, man? Reminder, if you want to get your questions, comments here, this is the Raiders Report. We are live right now. Can we get to 1,000 likes? I would greatly appreciate it. You can use hashtag Raiders or Super Chat. Hashtag Raiders, you're going to wait in line. Super Chat, think of it as Disney Fast Pass. Steve, We are going to hire Spy Tech Pete, Clint Hurt, Liam Cohen. We are going to trade up for Cam and sign Russell Wilson for 2 years.
Clint Hurt.
Yeah, I don't know. Spy Tech for GM, I like. Pete Carroll would be interesting. Liam Cohen's not going to come here to be the OC when he's already the OC at Tampa Bay, and according to reports, it sounds like he's interested, or the Jags are interested in hiring him for their head coaching gig. Russell Wilson for 2 years does intrigue me, but the Raiders had an opportunity last year, okay? Tom Brady was a part of that regime, and he's not nearly as influential as what he is now. But Brady did have a shot, and the Raiders did have a shot to go get Russell Wilson last season at $1.2 million, and they said no on it. So I just find it weird to be like, we're going to pass on 1.2. I know, totally different regime. But now you go out and get Russ, it's probably going to be in that $25 million a year range. But yes, Russ and Pete do have a lot of ties together.
Or if you take Sperry's approach, they'll just sign for the vet min again.
Yeah, well, he's living in La. Did you see he made a whole new video? He never pushed it out.
Really?
Came in on his off day because he felt like, I think we got in his head.
Did he really?
Swear to God, yeah. Raider Gaines, Pete Carroll is too old. He would be gone in 2 seasons. Prime will win a ring in college in the next couple of years. Why would we wait to pay more? So the Pete Carroll is too old thing, again, you can't look at it as, like, the Raiders aren't going to hire Pete Carroll and then in 2 years they're just going to bring in a brand new head coach. It's not quite how it would work.
No way.
I would say whoever Pete Carroll, head coach, and then the DC or the OC that the Raiders bring in would then take over the job once Pete decides to hang it up. It would be like a bridge head coach.
Too old for head coach, prime for president.
Yeah, I got into that debate a few times with some Raiders fans. I shouldn't say I got into a debate. I read a lot of comments like that. How about that? What's up, Steve? Bring back McDaniels. Let him pick a quarterback. Let him cook. Steve, I'll tell you this. There's a reason why you got a lowercase first name, okay? There's a reason why you don't have that capital S. It's a bad idea. Though it sounds like McDaniels is going to take the OC job in New England. I know that the Patriots are interested, and I'm not shocked that that's going to happen. I mean, there's only one place that he's ever going to be able to work in the NFL again, and that's going to be New England. Let's go to Cowboy. I'm in on Deion idea if Mitch can beat Chuggs at a boot race.
It's about the same likelihood of Travis, Deion, and Shador going to Las Vegas.
There is a significantly better chance of that than me beating you in a boot race. The only way I'm beating you in a boot race is if we actually have to run while we chug the boot, and that's the race. You know, like that's the only way I'm taking you down.
Have you seen my 40 time?
Yeah, you do move a lot better. I shouldn't say that. I'm old now, bro. Like, I don't think I could
I was going to say, with your knees, I'm giving it to me.
Yeah, that's true.
I think you come off the blocks, you have me the first 20 yards 20 through 40, I think it slows down for you.
See, I'm not a sprinter. Long distance would definitely be better for me, but I'm almost 32 now. It's getting up there in age. Azul!
I'm getting Mitchell Walker next year.
Just let them hire Gruden. Our fan base is stupid. Are you saying to hire Gruden, or are you saying our fan base is stupid for wanting Gruden? Because I agree with the second statement. Let's go to Raider Smoke. What up, man? Long time, Mitch. Mr. Smoke. Do you remember who this originally was?
Papaya Man.
Papaya Man. All right,
course.
Cool. If Carroll ends up being the head coach, I do feel some confidence knowing that he's beat the other head coaches in the AFC West. So, yes, like Carroll's never going to go into a week thinking that he's the worst head coach of the group, right? Like, I do think it's important to whoever this next head coach that we bring in isn't intimidated by 6 games a year. You're going up against Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and Jim Harbaugh. Like, those to me, probably the best 3 head coaches in any division in the National Football League right now. And, you know, you could pick that apart however you'd want it. But he is going to go in there with some confidence. You know he's going to go in there with some swagger. But you have to get Pete Carroll the proper OC, and you got to give him the proper DC. Drew, what would a trade for McVay or Shanahan look like? McVay ain't going to happen. I think if you try to trade for Sean McVay, I think the Rams would honestly ask for like 3 first-round picks. For a dude like Shanahan, there's a little bit of a different scenario. I would give up a first-round pick for Shanahan. I'm not giving up my first-round pick this year, But I think he's that good of a head coach where I think he's still a top 10 coach. But a lot of people in San Francisco are kind of out on him right now. But one of the reasons why I'm a little bit nervous about Shanahan is because Robert Saleh is the name that I hear that if the Raiders hire Pete Carroll, they want to be able to bring in Saleh to be that DC. And then when Pete ends up hanging him up, they give the keys to Saleh, and he's the new head coach. If I'm Saleh, I look at that DC opening in San Francisco, and I look at the DC opening for the Raiders, and I'm like, I'm just going to take the 49ers job again. And because I know that there's a lot of people in that 49ers community that kind of want Shanahan to get the boot. If you're Saleh, you just wait for that potentially to happen, but it's going to cost at least a first-round pick. I would say 3 for McVay. Let's go to God, Family, and Raiders for Life. John Elway, Bo Jackson, and Eli Manning refused to be drafted by a certain team. It wasn't just Eli. Yeah. I know there was a lot of names.
Two out of those 3 guys that also happened before cell phones. So.
Yep.
And then Eli happened 20 years ago.
I get it. We got to look at the names. It's the name and the talent alone. Like, I don't know if we've seen an athlete. Like, Travis Hunter is an unbelievable athlete. Like, he's a better athlete than he is a football player, which maybe that's a wrong statement to make.
To say Shador would do it. I don't think so, but I almost believe in the fact that Shador could make that happen. To say that you can have that happen with 2 players, though,
it's crazy.
Is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But if Deion can convince Travis Hunter to go to Jackson State instead of all these big colleges getting his name, and then he can take him to Colorado, and he literally says, I consider him my son.
That's much different than refute. That's like if Travis Hunter signed his NIL deal, signed everything with Alabama, and then he convinced him to sit out a year and then come play with him. Like, that's not the thing with Jackson State is he had the opportunity to go anywhere. So that's like getting a free agent.
What if going into the draft, Travis Hunter says, I want to play with Deion and I want to play with the Raiders. Don't draft me. What if that happens?
Then I would say,
are you still going to draft him? Because to me then, that NFL team's taking on that risk. And Travis Hunter and normal NFL players can't do that. I get it.
Do you know
but it's not a normal situation.
Do you know what's going to happen?
What?
If Travis Hunter doesn't perform and say he's not as good as he was in college.
He's not going to be.
Do you know how many teams are going to line up to sign him after his rookie deal? 0. You're screwing yourself for your entire future.
If OBJ can still get contracts and he hasn't been good for 5 years, people will sign Travis Hunter because of the name.
That's different than saying, I'm not playing for any other team. If Travis Hunter did that, he better prepare to play his entire career with the Raiders. And if he's not good and the Raiders don't give him another contract, he's out of the league. Because if I'm a GM, why am I signing somebody who came into the league saying, I'm not going to play with any other team?
Because he's good. If you're
not good.
He will, he's not going to be.
He will be good. Jamarcus Russell got taken first overall. Everybody thought he was going to be good. He flamed out.
That's different, though. Quarterback. I'm saying Travis Hunter's going to be.
Claiborne got taken in the top 10, and he's not a good corner.
I know, but think about how long he's still stuck around in the league for.
I know, because he was open to playing with other teams. He didn't screw himself as soon as he came into the league.
Travis Hunter would get another opportunity because of the name and because he's talented. There would be if he couldn't figure it out with Deion and the Raiders, I already know what would happen. Every other NFL team out there would go, it was just the Raiders. It was just that situation. I can turn Travis Hunter into a stud. It's what would happen.
If you open that up, especially for somebody who's not even Deion's, it's different with Deion and his son. That's a whole different situation. If you're opening it up for Travis Hunter, that's saying any good prospect can just choose whatever team they want to go to.
But I don't think every good prospect has done the situation like Travis Hunter has. Has there ever been a number 1 recruit to do what Travis Hunter has done? The answer to that is no.
Go to a lesser team?
To go to an HBCU school to follow a head coach and then follow him to Colorado?
Ed Oliver was the number 1 overall recruit, and he went to Houston whenever they played in the Conference USA. So, yeah, there has been other players who have done that, who have not gone to he was being recruited by Alabama, Ohio State, and he went to a much lesser school in Houston.
That's true. I remember that. Ed Oliver was a stud. I loved Ed Oliver coming out of Houston.
So, it's been done before.
But Ed Oliver's not Travis Hunter.
You could Travis Hunter's not Ed Oliver. I could just
Hunter won the Heisman. I like that you're playing devil's advocate. I like it. I appreciate it. Addy, I might be late on this, but does this make Neon Deion Sanders viable for the job? I don't know who Neon Deion is. This sounds like a very bright and wild.
Ed Oliver is one of the best college football players I've ever seen.
one of the craziest things. I said this. I said personally.
Non-biased.
Let me answer this.
What do you think is the chance that both Shador and Travis Hunter force their way to the Raiders?
And I think that you're selling yourself
0
short on that.
I think if you ask everybody in the office,
you're jeopardizing your entire career by doing
How?
Exactly.
How?
So what if you suck?
Exactly.
So what? You don't tell me that another team wouldn't take the chance on
yes.
it?
They didn't want to play for you in the first place.
And then you
And that's
also
a
suck.
That's a naive thing to think.
Why would I take a
naive.
chance on somebody who doesn't want to play here and sucked?
Because it happens all the time in the NFL.
That they sign guys who suck?
Yes, all the time. Guys get opportunities because Travis Hunter won a Heisman, because Travis Hunter has a name. If he was really bad with the Raiders, there would be a bunch of teams that would try to sign him.
I don't think so.
Dude. If guys like Josh Gordon are getting all these opportunities, Martavis Bryant are getting all these opportunities, Deontay Johnson are getting all these opportunities.
But you're talking about guys who are good in the league. We're saying in this scenario, he's not good in the league.
Kadarius Toney was a disaster, and he got opportunity after opportunity because he was a first-round pick. Travis Hunter would get an opportunity on another team if he didn't work out with the Raiders. I mean, come on. I might be late to this. I'll say this. I think you have to revisit the Deion Sanders conversation because we missed out on Ben Johnson. He could guarantee a quarterback, and because Raiders beat reporters put that there's zero interest, I don't know how truthful that is.
The chat is split. MRC, Mitch or Chuggs. Who's making more sense right now? Do you think it's Mitch or do you think it's Chuggs? Because I see half the people saying, Chuggs, you're being a hater, you're not being a realist. And I see people saying, Mitch, you're on drugs. Both things might be true.
Both things are probably not totally off the realm of possibility. However, though, I'm just simply throwing something out there that I think could happen. And I think it could happen because we've never seen anything like the Deion Sanders potentially coming to the NFL with his son, with somebody like Travis Hunter.
If that's the case, why don't the Raiders just hire Eli and Peyton Manning and wait another year for Arch to force his way to the Raiders?
See, now you're
that's
thinking.
That's the exact same scenario.
You're not wrong.
You should just hire.
But Peyton and Eli aren't coaches.
But, I mean, neither was Deion 3 years ago.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
I mean, they're just as much coaches as Deion. He literally doesn't coach. He literally is just
There's going to be somebody
OCs.
that hears that you just said that, and I guarantee you there's going to be people that are like, should we just hire Eli and Peyton and just run it with Marge?
Bleacher Report's going to come out with an article. Raiders are looking into Eli and Peyton Manning.
Love it.
As co-head coaches.
Source, YouTube. Let's go to Gilbert. Hey, are you doing a Madden games again? Will we do Madden games this offseason? We'll probably do something again. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I enjoy doing watch parties in May, June, and July when there's not a lot going on. I'll also say this offseason is going to be a really weird offseason for me simply because I get married in June, and I would like to be able to do my honeymoon in July. So, my offseason schedule is going to be just a little bit different than what I typically do, but you can almost bet on we will 100% do some Madden watch parties this year. So Cameron, what up, dude? Max Crosby for Mike Tomlin. They both need fresh pastures. I don't want to do – neither side would want to do that. The Steelers, actually, I think would say no.
I don't think they can afford it.
And I think the Raiders would. I wouldn't want to trade Max Crosby for Mike Tomlin.
The Steelers don't have enough cap space. Max Crosby wants a new contract. They're already paying T.J. Watt and their defense 80% of their cap space.
Yeah, I mean, whatever team – if Max does end up getting dealt, that team that ends up going out and getting him – they have to be able to support paying a defensive end $30 million plus per year for about 5 years. Now, again, you can do void years. You can kind of break it down a little bit more. The reason why I think the Raiders end up getting a deal done is because Max already has 3 void years on the Raiders. He's got 2 years left on his contract, 0 guaranteed money. So the Raiders, even if they were to move on from Max, they are going to pay him in 2027, in 2028, and in 2029. If you're Las Vegas, Max Crosby's 27 years old, you just give him a 5-year extension because no matter what, you're going to be paying him in those years anyway. It's not a lot of money, but I would give Max a 3. The deal that I think Max gets this year from the Raiders is very similar to the contract that the Raiders gave Devontae Adams, where it's a 3-year deal with an out clause on those final 2 years, but it's going to be fully guaranteed on the first 3. I think Max gets probably close to $100 million fully guaranteed.
Would you have traded Max Crosby for Ben Johnson?
I feel like at this point I just got to say no. Let's go to Henny. Can't Travis just not go into the draft and just sign him off the street?
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I actually don't know if that's allowed. I actually do not know if that's allowed. But I guess hypothetically speaking, it could be.
I mean, yes, he could.
I guess, right?
We saw it with Lael Collins. He could not enter the draft, go into the supplemental draft, or go into another kind of draft. The only thing is, he'd be playing his first 4 years, which maybe it doesn't matter because he gets brand deals and other things. He'd be playing his first 4 years at the league minimum.
See, I think if Travis Hunter were to do that, they'd give him like a 4-year deal, and it would look a lot like a first-round contract fully guaranteed. It'd be weird.
They just break all the rules.
Just break all the rules.
There's actually no rules in the NFL anymore. You can do whatever you want.
As long as the Raiders are good, I don't really care. At this point, I can't handle another year like we just went through. Azul. Careful, Mitch. You making Chuggs slam you on a table. Maybe. If the Bills beat the Chiefs. Actually, that's not true. We don't have to do that. We didn't get to the number yesterday in the watch party, so I don't have to jump through a table. Alan, what about Cliff as head coach / OC and promote Rob Leonard to defensive coordinator? My only fear with this is exactly what Arizona did with Cliff. And Cliff showed that he can call plays, but not everybody is, meant to be a head coach, right? Like, not everybody is a leader of men, which I used to say all the time because I used to always say Josh McDaniels isn't a leader of men. I think Cliff Kingsbury is one of those dudes where he's going to be better off being an OC for long term in his career. Now, there might be a team that gives him an opportunity, and I bet you there will be a team that gives him an opportunity down the road. However, though, if I'm Cliff, I think he kind of goes the Ben Johnson route. And if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, I go, do I stay as an OC and work with Jaden Daniels, or do I take the Raiders head coaching job, a job that I already turned down as an OC last year because you couldn't show me that you could give me a quarterback? Like, I don't think Cliff would have any interest in this job. He wasn't interested in it, last year. And I get it. OC head coach, a little bit different. But Rob Leonard, interesting name. And as much as I love Rob Leonard, I don't think that he's going to get a defensive coordinator job, because if you're the Raiders and you're, thinking about doing this, I'd rather you just bring back Patrick Graham. You keep Rob Leonard instead of just promoting Rob Leonard and losing out on Patrick Graham. Let's go to Suavemente. These conversations between y'all is why I sub, and I appreciate that.
Could you imagine if I just agreed with everything Mitch said?
Honestly, Noah kind of looks like if you were to put you and me together in one.
Yeah.
I could see it.
Dude,
I could see it.
I was shopping the other day at Walmart, and there's how there's always those guys trying to sell you like internet or cable there?
Yeah.
The dude came up to me and he started speaking Spanish. He thought I was Mexican.
Oh, yeah?
Dude, full-on sentence, all Spanish. I just am like, hey.
I mean, notice, I don't think you look Mexican.
I don't think I do either.
Though your beard yesterday was a little bit less and your mustache was more pronounced. Which, if you were to shave your beard and you were to only have that mustache, like, here, get me big screen real quick. Or you, like, you guys will see, like, you kind of have, like, a Mexican mustache.
Hey, bark, bark.
Like, if you got rid of your beard and just had that, I'd be like, all right, that looks a little bit closer.
Hey, what's up, vato? Hey, what's going on?
Then I could see it. But besides that, I don't know. Though, somebody said Guapo. We would have to call you Jeremy Guapo. The El Guapo. I say we try to change your nickname from Chuggs to El Guapo.
Say your girl's addicted to my crema. Jacob!
Holy shit. Oh, man. Girls are horchata for my crema. Mitch is correct. He would do that 100%. You see Travis on his podcast saying he wants to play for Deion and Shador. Raiders have no risk, in my opinion. There is a risk, right? Like, everything is a risk. But
Jeremy Chuglupa.
Oh, man. Chuglupa? That's too much. I like
Get the Edgar haircut, Chuggs.
Bro, let's run it. How much for you to get the Edgar haircut? I'll call up my guy. I'll call up Alex. Not my fiance. The guy who used to do my fades.
Maybe we
I don't get my hair cut anymore.
Maybe we can mess around with it because I do still want to do the St. Baldrick's show.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah, I do actually really want to do a St. Baldrick's show. I think that would be a lot of fun. If you guys don't know what St. Baldrick's is, you can Google it, but we've been talking about doing some fun stuff in March where, we've done like shows where everything we get we just donate to a cause, and obviously cancer is very important to me. We did it a few years ago. We did it for Tri-Van. We actually ended up raising over, it was like $1,000. And it'd be something that I'd like to do again, St. Baldrick's. We used to do it in baseball. We had a bunch of guys that would shave their heads, so I was like, oh, it'd be fun to do. I think we do, what's it called? What's that haircut called?
The Edgar?
We do the Edgar first, get a good pick, and then we shave it. I think like that's what we'd have to do. But Jacob, at least somebody's on my side here a little bit. Deion's name alone gets a lot of pull like Brady. And I think there's just different situations in life where there's going to be a lot of hearsay. And I get it. And that's part of this show. It's part of the conversation that goes along with it. But to say that it's impossible, I think is a crazy thing to say, personally. All right, we got a few more here. I think I got one more. Are we all caught up?
One more.
We got one more, and this one's coming
Cameron.
From Mr. Sproul. And this was a name that I believe was in my very first video that I did of Raiders head coach candidates, and it was around Bruce Arians. And Bruce Arians is going to be a name that I talk about, coming up here in a little bit. So I don't want to give away everything that I'm going to say on Bruce. Bottom line is this, though. I think every reason why people would want a guy like Pete Carroll, I think Bruce Arians could do the exact same thing, right? And then on top of that, Bruce Arians, I think also would bring in a guy like John Spytek. I think Bruce Arians has been able to prove with Tom Brady that, guess what, you were able to win a Super Bowl already. So when you think about what Tom Brady's looking for, what Jed Hughes is looking for, like the Pete Carroll argument, Bruce Arians is younger, and I think both of them could do exactly what the Raiders are going to be looking to do. I'm not kidding you when I say this. I actually like the idea of Bruce Arians more than I do Pete Carroll.
Last time Tomlin won
but I don't think it's going to happen.
Last time Tomlin won a Super Bowl.
Was what? Against Bruce Arians?
No, not against. Bruce Arians was the OC.
Wow, that's how long ago that was?
Dude, it was the Steelers versus Cardinals.
Wow, Kurt Warner, Larry Fitzgerald.
That's the last time they won the Super Bowl. Bruce Arians was the head coach.
All right, trivia.
Or was the OC. I actually watched a 30-minute documentary on it.
Yeah.
Basically, they forced Arians out because they thought that his offense, even though it was high profile and prolific, it put Ben Roethlisberger in too much basically
risk.
He
likes to take shots down the field.
And he basically made it to where Ben took a lot of hits. The front office didn't like that, and they were basically like, "Can you change your offense?" And he goes, "No, that's my offense."
Yeah.
And so they were like, they didn't. It was one of those things where his contract went up and they didn't re-sign him.
I mean, Bruce Arians Bruce Arians has a Raider mentality, in all honesty. Now, again, I don't love this is my offense and I'm just going to shove everybody into this offense to make it work. That does make me a little bit nervous, but I don't think it would be the Bruce Arians offense. I think you're having Bruce Arians be the head coach. It's interesting, though. I like it. Let's go to Free Morian. I personally prefer Todd Monken, Liam Cohen, or Robert Saleh. Pete Carroll's the most realistic, but I would prefer those three. What do you think? Free, we think very, very similar. So the next show that I got coming up here, Free, and I don't want to get into these names because I am really going to talk about these names a lot. So the next video that I want to get into is this. Raiders head coach candidates. I'm not going to rank them. I'm doing a completely different show. I've never done a show like this for Raiders head coach candidates before, and it's something that I wanted to be able to do. Also, Free Morian. I believe that was a first-time super chat. So,
hey.
I agree with you. How about that? I agree with you. I agree with the idea that I would rather have two of these names over Pete Carroll.
Rhino, my guy, what's up?
Rhino Jimenez.
What is up, my guy?
Ron Raspberry says, smash that like button. Let's get to 1,000. I agree. I agree, man. I agree. All right, y'all. I see one more super chat coming in. And then after that, I say we get into the Raiders head coach candidates video. Because we got a lot more to unpack here on the show. We only have 2 segments today, and I did it because I was actually worried if I try to do another segment, it would just get ruined if there was any breaking news tomorrow. So we're only doing 2 segments today. I wanted to be able to answer a lot more questions on today's live show. I see Jacob Holt. If you want to get it after. I was going to say, we could do it after. Also, a little insider, my pop's best friend, works for the front office in Las Vegas. He said, watch for Pete, Saleh. He also told me yesterday that they are a potential package deal, but it's not too likely. I mean, I've heard very similar things. I don't know if anything you're telling me here is true, but I think anybody that's watched this show over the past, I don't know, week, I think I've said this exact statement. So I don't know if we're hearing the same things. Awesome. Maybe I talked to your dad. I don't know. That'd be kind of crazy.
People are talking right now.
What? No. No.
People are talking.
I'm probably good on Bobby Slovic at this point.
Dude.
I'm probably
young
good on
offensive mind.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm probably good on it.
Is it because he doesn't have a kid that plays quarterback?
You said it, not me. You said it. I think Nick has the right idea here. He said, let's just bring back Luke Getsy. I say Luke Getsy was what if Luke Getsy was just a bad OC, but he can be a great head coach?
It's like you're not a good boyfriend, but
you're
maybe
a great husband.
You'll make a great husband.
You're a shitty guy, but you're a great dad. And that's the logic here. You know what, Nick? I'm in it. Let's bring back Getsy, but we don't let him call plays.
You son of a bitch.
You just let him be head coach.
I'm in.
And then we bring in Shane Waldron because he just failed in Chicago as well, and you let him be the OC. You bring in Pete Carroll to just be the assistant head coach. And then on the defensive side of the football, let's bring in Gus Bradley. Why not? Or I got a better idea. And I can't think of his name right now, and it's going to drive me nuts. Who was the old Raiders defensive coordinator that used to be on the Bengals that was just absolutely atrocious? He ran cover 6. It just really Paul Gunther. There we go. We bring Paul Gunther back as DC, and we make John Gruden head of our drafting department.
Yep.
That sounds like a dream team if I've ever heard it.
That, and then maybe, I don't know, maybe we just take it a step further. Maybe just you have to be a former Raiders player.
You had a former Raiders player.
You have to trade for Josh Jacobs.
Terrell Pryor was way ahead of his time. We bring back 41-year-old Terrell Pryor and let him run the option.
People are talking.
There's going to be one random person that just turned into the show for the first time, and they're going to be like, I can't watch this guy. This guy's insane.
This guy sucks.
This guy has got terrible ideas.
Why is he not talking about Shador and
People
Travis?
subscribe to this guy? This is unbelievable.
I thought he was going to tell me Shador and Travis would force their way to the Raiders.
That could happen. All right, y'all, let's talk about some Raiders head coach candidates here on today's show. Again, I'm going to do this a little bit different than what I typically do, and sometimes, we like to switch it up here a little bit on the show. Appreciate everyone always tuning in. If we get to 1,000 likes, I'm giving Ron Raspberry a raise. You guys in? If we get to 1,000 likes, I'm giving Ron Raspberry a raise. And I'll tell you what that raise is after we talk about this first segment. You ready? I got the thumbs up. Y'all ready? Coming up, let's talk about some Raiders head coach candidates. Raiders head coach candidates coming up here on today's show. I'm Mitchell Renz. This is the Raiders Report, and you look for free Raiders videos every single day. Make sure you click that subscribe button. So coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you who right now is the front runner, the favorite for the Raiders head coaching job. I'm going to tell you every single candidate that the Raiders have either interviewed or reportedly are interested in interviewing. I'm going to tell you who my top head coach choice would be from the list of names right here. Then I got a list of names of my Raiders. Can we please interview these candidates? And then at the very end, let's get insane, and I got an insane splash name to consider. Bottom line, if you want free Raiders content all day, every day, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, because you're not going to find anybody out there that will out-hustle Jeremy Chuggs and I. Let's go to the very first, the favorite for the Raiders head coaching job. And if you watched a lot of our videos, if you follow me on social media, this one's not going to be a surprise. As it stands right now, according to reports, Pete Carroll is the favorite for the job. Now, we've seen around the NFL, things can change very quickly, And I think that the Raiders were all in on Ben Johnson, missed on Johnson, and it sounds like right now Carroll is plan B. The Raiders did interview Carroll back on January 13th in person, which I do think is kind of interesting because it was their first, legit in-person interview. And there is a lot of speculation that Pete could be like a bridge head coach. Maybe they also are able to bring in a guy like Robert Saleh, but he's got tons of head coaching experience. Is he up there in age? Yeah, I mean, there was a 30-year stretch where he was a head coach, whether it was with the Jets, the Patriots, USC, or Seattle, but he has been able to do some good stuff. Defensive-minded guy, is a culture builder, and has ties to Jed Hughes, who he was part of that regime when he was hired there in Seattle. But that was the most obvious thing that I was going to tell you here on today's show. Everywhere else, this is going to get a little bit different from my typical Raiders head coach candidate videos that I do. Now, we're going to look at every candidate, and these are the names that are confirmed that the Raiders have said either A, I am interested in interviewing you, or B, have actually, in fact, taken that job or have at least interviewed for the job. Now, here's what we know. Mike Vrabel took the job in New England, and actually, as I am recording this video, the Patriots just hired Josh McDaniels to join Mike Vrabel. Ben Johnson got the job in Chicago. The other names that you see up here on screen are either interested in or, the Raiders have interviewed him. Though if you look there, Todd Monken, Steve Spagnuolo, they have the asterisk because the Raiders haven't interviewed them, and unfortunately, there is no date at the time that I am making this video for a interview to be set for those two guys. Though, if you follow some rumors, those are still names that the Raiders are apparently still interested in, at least just a little bit. So when you look at those candidates, right, I figured I got to say my top head coach choice, and I'm going to base it off of the names that I just showed you here. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to hit you guys with a YouTube ad break. While you're getting hit with that ad break, I want you to scroll on down, and I want you to answer the pinned comment. Who is your top choice to be the next Raiders head coach? My answer coming up here in just a moment. If I'm picking from just the names of the candidates that the Raiders have reached out to, the number one candidate that I am going to go with now is Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. And the fact that the Ravens just lost in the divisional round against the Bills, I'm picking up the phone and I'm trying to get on an interview with Monken. He was great at Georgia, and he is doing work right now in Baltimore. The run that Monken went on of just flat out winning can't go unnoticed. And look at Georgia's offense without Monken. Look at how good Lamar Jackson has played. He was an MVP in 2023. A year after, there was a lot of people just a few years ago that were like, oh, I don't know how good Lamar Jackson's going to be anymore. Got into a few injuries. He's playing the best football of his career, and quite frankly, I think his 2024 season was even better. Also, if you're the Raiders and you're going to try to build on offense, the one piece you got on offense right now, maybe two, Brock Bowers and Jackson Powers-Johnson. Brock Bowers has already showed you that he can be a dog, literally, with Monken. And then also, Monken's going to want to run a physical frickin' offense. Sounds almost perfect for JPJ and Brock Bowers, two players that are on the all-rookie team. So if I were to say right now, my Raiders head coach rankings based on the names that you see up on screen, here's how I would do it, and hear me out. Monken's number one. Pete Carroll is number two if you can also pair him with a good OC and DC. And I think that name would be Robert Saleh. The reason why Pete Carroll and Robert Saleh are over a name like Deion Sanders is because I hear that they could potentially be a package deal. If you're telling me they're not a package deal, I'll put Deion Sanders number two on that list because he can build a program, and I think it's the least risky because you're getting a quarterback and it's going to make a lot of money for Mark Davis. Coming up next here on the show, coaches that I want the Raiders to interview, because there's a lot of names out there. There's a lot of names where I'm like, I can't believe we're not interested in this guy. And what I don't want the Raiders to do is this. I don't want them to fall into a trap like they did last year. They wanted Cliff Kingsbury at OC. They were unable to get him. They panicked, and they went out and they fell in love with the first guy in Luke Getsy. Don't want that to happen again. The Raiders wanted Mike Vrabel. They wanted Ben Johnson. They are 0 for 2 on those two people. I don't want them to just jump in bed with the next name because they're worried about being single. You need to fall in love, but you got to wait for that perfect opportunity, that perfect guy, and I don't want them to rush into it. So names coming up here in a little bit are names that the Raiders need to put in a request for. I'll tell you who they are in just a moment, but PrizePicks is today's sponsor, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. The big game, I don't know if you all know this, it's right around the corner. And the fact that it's almost here, it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. PrizePicks is also giving away a free pick for the big game, where one of the starting quarterbacks will only need to throw 1 yard to win. If you are correct on at least one more stat projection, you can win real cash. Check out the promos tab to tail any of our super sweet Millie winners big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. Also, I'm pretty interested to watch this big game. I don't know about y'all. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. If anybody hung out with Chuggs and I during the year, any watch party we did, we always had a PrizePicks lineup in. It makes the game that you're watching way, way more interesting. Those links are going to be down in the bottom, and they are going to be in the description of today's show. This was from the national championship game. Obviously, we did not get this one, which it is what it is. But what I'm trying to show you is, like, see how Will Howard got the 0.5 pass yards? PrizePicks is going to do that with a quarterback from the big game. So just keep that in mind. I love looking at the games, love watching the games, makes it a lot more interesting. Huge shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring. All right, coming up, some coaches that I would want the Raiders to interview. And these are all names that, quite frankly, I'm kind of shocked that the Raiders haven't at least, put out a few of these names out there. And I'm going to throw out a lot of names, okay? And I'm going to try to explain quickly why I would want certain names and why I would be very interested in it from top to bottom. First, let's talk about some of these OCs, like a guy like a Liam Cohn, a guy like Joe Brady. If you were interested in a young dude like Ben Johnson to try to find that next Sean McVay, why the hell wouldn't you be interested in a Liam Cohn or a dude like Joe Brady, maybe even a Cliff Kingsbury? If you're looking at a big name like a Mike Vrabel, why wouldn't you be interested in Mike McCarthy, who, quite frankly, I think is maybe the most deserving on this list? If you want to go more of a defensive-minded guy, Brian Flores, I think, would be a great pairing. He's got a relationship with Tom Brady underneath a dude potentially like Pete Carroll. And then you got Bruce Arians down there. If you want to bring in somebody that's trying to do exactly what you're trying to do with Pete Carroll, but has already won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady, Bruce Arians, John Spytek makes a lot of sense. I also think Frank Reich and some of his connections that he has with a guy maybe like an Ed Dodds. Ed Dodds came in also with Pete Carroll in Seattle. A lot of different names to throw out there, but this is a list of if the Raiders missed out on Ben and then they missed out on Mike Vrabel, instead of hitting that panic button and say we have to hire one of the guys that we've put in an interview request for, I don't think that that's the case. Those are 10 other candidates right there that, quite frankly, are really good candidates. If the Bears can interview 20 head coach candidates, why can't the Raiders do it? You have nothing to lose, Las Vegas. Let's go to the last thing here. The insane splash. Drip, drip, wet, wet. And it's Deion Sanders. And the reason why that I say it's Deion Sanders, and if you missed my live show on Tuesday, if you're watching my live show now, you probably know a lot of the things that I'm going to say, but Deion Sanders is very interested in the Raiders' job. When you hire Deion Sanders, you're guaranteed to fix your biggest issue, quarterback. You're going to be able to bring in Shador. Sanders showed interest in the Raiders' job, but was told that, the Raiders aren't interested. The reason why I do this is because for the Raiders beat reporters to miss as bad as what they did on the Ben Johnson story, I think that there's a chance that they might have missed that the Raiders aren't interested in Deion. And them being not interested then is totally different than them not being interested now. They weren't interested then because they had their eyes on Ben Johnson. Now that situation is over. And I think one of the safest things that you could do if you were the Raiders is hire Deion because of the amount of money that it makes. So if you want to go check out a video that I put out on Tuesday after our live show, this is the thumbnail to it. Deion to Vegas after Ben Johnson takes the Bears job. This video is going to be in the comments. It's also going to be in the description of today's show. Go check it out to see more of my reasons why I think Deion to Vegas is kind of an interesting idea that more people need to revisit and consider. So in conclusion here, there are plenty of good head coach candidates still available for the Raiders. You don't need to just fall in love and jump into bed like you did last offseason with Luke Getsy. I do really want the Raiders to interview guys like Monken, Liam Cohen, and a guy like Deion Sanders. I think that reopens a lot of the things. I would actually also add Mike McCarthy here to this list. And even though the Raiders missed on those two options, don't rush into a bad hire. We got to make the right choice, and I'm hoping that the Raiders make the right choice this offseason. What up, Locho? Hello, Pookie Wookie and Chuggy Wuggy. What up, Loco?
Hi,
Appreciate you tuning in to the show.
my name is Paul.
Hi, Skinbone. What happened to Doug Peterson, Super Bowl coach, to out of the league?
I think with that, also, the Super Bowl with Philadelphia, he had an insane coaching staff surrounding him. You're looking at the guys who were there with him coaching during that Super Bowl run. You're looking at guys who, former head coach and DC, now I can't think of his name.
I mean, Frank Reich was on that, wasn't he?
Frank Reich was on that. He was the OC. Why can't I think? The DC, I think he's currently with the Browns. He was with the Lions. He's with a ton of teams. He head coach before. Now I can't think of his name.
Vic?
No.
He's there now. I can't think of it either. I think I know who you mean, though. I'm like going through the list. What year was that Super Bowl?
2017?
When Nick Foles won, that's
Jim
that long.
Schwartz.
It's that long ago.
Jim Schwartz
Oh, okay.
was the DC.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great overall staff. Like, it really, truly was. And that's obviously going to help. But, Doug Peterson barely got the job in the Jags almost had to beg Doug Peterson to get the job. And I think if the Jags weren't such a horrible organization with Trent Baalke, that he could have gone somewhere else. But I also think Doug Peterson is one of those names where you're like, maybe not a head coach, but can he be an OC? Potentially. Let's go to CC. Todd is OC. He's not a head coach.
And he looks older than Pete.
And maybe that's the case, right? Like, I don't know the answer to that, but if we're looking at resumes, it's really hard to find somebody that's done a better job with what the Raiders need than Todd Monken. I mean, his resume, Georgia, the Ravens, like, it's extremely impressive, especially when you see the Georgia fall off and how much better Lamar Jackson has been with Monken. Like, you can't deny that. Inefficient sloth. Pete for head coach.
Sloth's my favorite animal.
Bring in Deion as DC so that he can take over and still be able to coach his players. Deion's not going to leave Colorado to be a defensive coordinator. Now, the reason why this would be interesting, I guess, is if you guarantee Deion the opportunity to be the head coach in a year or two when Pete decides to hang it up, but I still don't think Deion's going to do that. I mean, Deion's going to be the head coach. And I think the other problem that you would get here if you bring in Pete and Deion, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. I think actually you would create a pretty big divide. Let's go to Free Maury, and I personally prefer Todd Monken, Liam Cohen, and Robert Saleh.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, I think we already got that one before the show, but yeah, I agree with you, Free Maury.
This is the one I want to go to.
You're good. We got no more Josh McDaniels. I mean, like, let's be honest here. I wish Josh would have just stayed, and we would have never had the whole Raiders thing go down. But he should have just stayed. Like, he should have just stayed in New England. But we also, like, let's not be surprised that he got the job.
So now that you know that him and Mike Vrabel were, a pair, he's having him as the OC. Does that make you feel better that the Raiders didn't hire Vrabel?
McDaniels wouldn't have been the OC here, even if Vrabel would have got the job. Like, it would have never, ever happened. And I know that for a fact. But I do think it could have been a situation where
that was a deal breaker for Vrabel not to come to Vegas.
Again, the Vrabel situation changed dramatically, where the Raiders were all in on Vrabel, and Vrabel was very interested in that Raiders job. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the New England job came open, it was like we already knew what was going to happen. I mean, it happened so quick. It did. It happened so quick, which is why I think some people are wondering if anything that was reported around Ben Johnson was true, because of how quick it happened yesterday. Quick. Cameron, Matt Millen, Dennis Allen, Luke Getsy, Paul Gunther.
Make it happen.
See, now you're thinking. This is, and then you get Jamarcus Russell at quarterback. Get a receiver like Darius Hayward-Bay, and we're cooking, man. We're freaking cooking. Go get a Cleveland Ferrell, draft a Jonathan Abram. If you're looking for an offensive lineman, maybe an Alex Leatherwood. Jeremy Cole, Monken with Fields and Saleh for DC. I think that's a recipe for success. I think Justin Fields, if I was Fields, okay, and I saw Todd Monken get a job with the Raiders, that's the number one place I would want to go. And Fields has plenty of connections already with Champ Kelly. Champ Kelly also was the one that drafted Fields when he was a part of the Bears organization. Let's go to Jansen. What's up, my man? To do what Mitch wants, some team that doesn't even want Shedeur or Hunter will draft them just to demand twice the draft capital in return. So you're saying like the team would draft Shedeur and Hunter and then demand twice the draft capital? I don't think that that's what would happen, though. Because the team wouldn't have the power. The players would have the power. But I like the this is a good thought process here by Robert. Because the team could do that.
I don't think the players have as much power as you think right now. They have power. They definitely have more than they did 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, who's writing the checks?
Sure. I hear you. Joe, what up, man? Sorry, Chuggs. Love you, bro. But if Prime comes to Vegas, we will see Shedeur. Philosophy, I think he means possibly, and Hunter, because Prime can get it done. Joe, you and I are thinking the exact same, man. Let's go to a few more, and then Chuggs and I are going to hop on out of here, which we've been live for already about an hour and 45 minutes, so I appreciate everyone tuning in. Let's answer a few more questions, and if we don't get any more supers, then we'll probably hop on out of here. Sign Carroll. Sign an OC. Who's going to be the OC, though? Sign, again, you would draft Sanders.
No, he's saying Deion as DC.
Yeah, again, it's just not going to happen. Deion's not going to take any type of job that's not a head coaching job in the NFL. I don't see why he would. Loss. How would you feel about Matthew Stafford? It might be his last seasoning with the Rams. I actually think that we just looked at this the other day, and I actually don't think that the contract makes a lot of sense. So you'd have to trade for him pre-June 1st, and if you trade for him, yeah, the Rams end up eating $45 million. Like, I don't think the Rams are going to eat $45 million. Stafford's contract next season has zero guaranteed. Like, the Rams were good this season, and I think that they're going to roll it back with Stafford again. Like, next year, though, in 2026 could be the area of conversation. Alfred, when can we expect a decision to be made on head coach and GM?
That would make my life so much easier if we knew this.
I mean, I think what you got to watch is what other teams do. If the Jags hire Liam Cohen tomorrow, so Liam Cohen interviews with Jacksonville, if they hire him, I think it happens pretty quick. And the only reason why that I say that is because, again, I think the Raiders want Pete Carroll and Robert Saleh as a duo, head coach and defensive coordinator. Like, that's what I think that they want. So if they end up, if Jacksonville gets Liam Cohen, then that opens up a possibility, for Robert Saleh. Wow. But then again, Saleh could just take that 49ers job. Raiders 187. What about Anthony Weaver?
What about him? I think he's good. I think he's a good
young DC for the Miami Dolphins.
So it was
like,
funny.
To me, I would rather just have Brian Flores.
It was funny because Vic Fangio was in Miami.
Yep.
He goes to Philadelphia. The Eagles' defense becomes way better. Sure. The Dolphins' defense wasn't that good last year.
Yep.
Anthony Weaver goes to Miami, and the defense gets much better there too.
Yep.
So it's like, I think that's also with like having guys that fit your system and being able to run your philosophy.
Gus Bradley.
And I also think Vic Fangio, his defense, it works a lot better, and it probably helps in that he has an offense like the Eagles do where they run so much and control the time of possession. That helps him and the Eagles' defense look a lot. Not saying the Eagles' defense isn't good, but it makes them look a lot better in that their offense controls the ball.
I think also you need coaches that fit your overall team. Vic Fangio is an old school, tough, that's his mentality. That fits the way Philadelphia plays football way better than the Dolphins that you can make an argument of the softest team in the NFL.
I mean, Mike McDaniel is wearing Jordans with the tags on.
And when they play anywhere else that's not in Miami, it's a totally different football team. Like, that's one of the softest teams in the NFL, and I do think Vic Fangio is just a bad culture fit overall, but he's proven to be a great fit right now in Philly.
Anthony Weaver, I think, is good.
Good candidate.
I think he's going to be a good coach in this league someday. Where the Raiders are at right now,
I would just rather get Brian Flores.
If the Raiders weren't coming off as bad of coaching hires as they've had the past 2 or 3 times out, then it would make sense to give somebody a chance like this. Where the Raiders are at right now, I don't know if you can necessarily give somebody a chance, an up-and-comer. You need somebody to set the culture.
Yeah.
Anthony Weaver's a guy who can come in and, you pass the torch to. There's no torch to be passed right now.
Yeah, I don't think the Raiders clean their entire house for Anthony Weaver. You know what I mean? Unless Weaver's got some sort of connection with a GM candidate or Tom Brady that none of us know about, right? Anthony Weaver's cousins with Brady. Get a Raiders player to show to the show just like Trizzy.
Shout out to Triz.
Yeah, shout out to Trizzy. So I don't know if you guys saw this. Alvin Kamara tweeted out, the head coach I want for the Saints rhymes with Fizzy. And Trace, he's always on the show. He does our Saints show. He, put something out, and Kamara, responded to him.
Well, his nickname is Trizzy Trace.
Trizzy Trace is his nickname. Yeah, that needs to be thrown in there. And Kamara and Trace were, going back and forth talking. I mean, I've had players on this show before. I think the other thing is,
we've had a player naked on the show before.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. Hang on, I got somebody at my door.
Box! Are we watching somebody break into your house right now?
Trace's Maddie is walking into my house. And I have no idea why.
Oh, no, to give your coat back.
Oh, the coat back. I mean, she could take out Chuck. I wouldn't be mad about it. What coach are you guys hoping that we get? Realistically, the coach that I would want are Todd Monken, Liam Cohn, or a guy like Deion Sanders. I'm not kidding you when I say, those would be the names. Or you hire Pete Carroll and you pair that together with Robert Saleh. That's what I would hope for. What's up, Ben Thrack? This year's MVP so far. Let's go to one more coming in here from Noah Suavemente. And then, because Alex is out of town, I am on dog duty. So I do actually have to try to get home kind of quick.
If only somebody was there to let him out.
If only someone was there to let him out. Though, I feel bad, asking.
She's there.
I know, but
knowing Maddie,
she would do it.
come on.
I don't want her to just do it.
Wait.
I also don't have her number.
Can I freak her out really quick?
Sure. Oh, she said no.
Wow. Oh,
She
wait,
said
wait.
She said not today.
One more time. Let me try. Maybe it's on Do Not Disturb.
It could be.
Or she has my number blocked.
Though, I'll be able to know.
Wait. Oh, here we go. We're getting somewhere.
All right, I'm looking.
Hello.
Hi,
Hey, are you at Mitch's house?
I am.
Oh my God, I knew it.
Why?
I know. Yes, Mitch looked at the ring.
Oh my God, did he see me trip off the stairs?
No, but we're gonna go back and look now.
Oh my God. Well, first off, when you
I can't see it.
Oh my God, something's wrong with Tracy. He hurt himself.
So,
About that. But yes, I didn't really put 2 and 2 together. Yeah, Alex asked me to go put
a coat.
for the wedding. She asked me to go put it inside.
Mitch has a huge favor to ask.
Okay.
Maddie, is there any way you could take out Chuck? Okay.
I told him you're the biggest sweetheart I know, so you would have no problem doing it, and he was scared to ask you.
All right, let's spam Maddie down below. This helps us stay live a little bit longer here on the Raiders
He was
Report.
like, somebody's at my door. I was like, who is it? He was like, oh, it's Maddie.
Well, I saw a code being punched in, and I was like, Alex is out of town. What's happening here?
Who is that chick in all brown? No.
I see William, Suavemente,
They're
Jody,
spamming your name in the chat
Ron
right
Raspberry, R. Martin, Jody. Shout out to Maddie for taking Chuck out.
I'll take him out. Y'all are good.
Thank you.
now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I'll talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Later.
She's not going to text us later. I don't think she's going to text us later. All right, we can answer a few more questions if you guys have them. If I'm a mix of both y'all, I hope I can outkick my coverage one day too. I mean, touche. I mean, I would say if that's the case, then you are going to find one badass Mexican Jewish girl. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, dude.
Dude, she's going to do wonders with your dreidel.
Oh, dude, she's going to...
You're going to be getting gimmels. She's going to be on her shin. It's going to be crazy.
El Shalom.
Suavemente. What is up, my dude? What is up? All right, got another super chat coming in here. Again, y'all, we always go live on Tuesdays, and the next time that Chuggs and I are going to be live here on this show, AFC Championship game. So,
also,
I was thinking about going live for the NFC, but I'm like, I just want to give 110% for that AFC Championship game, Bills against the Chiefs. What do you got?
also,
What?
big news.
Yeah?
Found a restaurant right near you that is really good. One of Danny's friends.
Okay.
We met her and her husband over there. Dude, it's called Hungry Belly.
Hungry Belly.
Right off of Fitzhugh.
It's Asian.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you been there?
I don't think I've ever been there.
Dude.
I'm pretty sure, though, I've gotten food from there, like on
It is
DoorDash.
Gas, bro.
Hungry Belly?
Dude, they have, do you like Korean food, like Korean barbecue?
Yeah, I think,
They had some great bulgogi, really good ramen. Dude, they have it's Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. So they have like everything.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure they are always a place that does buy one, get one free.
On Uber?
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I'll try to see if I can find it. I
Dude,
mean, it's,
it-
yeah, top offer, buy one. Oh, they do buy one, get free item. So right now,
What's the free item?
ooh. Oh man, so you get a Hello Kitty fried roll. If you buy their Hello Kitty roll, which spicy tuna, avocado, cream cheese, sweet sauce on top, then you can get either these items for free.
You get. Oh wait.
So the only time I go on Uber Eats and the only time I get anything is if I order.
Okay, so you can get.
Yeah, it's not buy
You
one
can
get
get a
one.
roll. Oh, dude, this was the best thing. This is what the kimbap. Dude,
Yeah.
It's like a Korean sushi roll.
Mm-hmm.
They're so good.
Interesting. I might have to try it out.
But dude, yeah, this place. I went there and I was like, dude, the menu's massive.
Yeah.
And we met Danny's friend there.
Sure.
And they had like a couple friends. So there was like 7 or 8 of us. Everything that everybody got looked gas. They had these bulgogi French fries, and it was like French fries with like Asian sauce and like bulgogi meat on top. Dude.
I'm excited. I might have to try. Honestly, I'm getting kind of hungry right now. Kimbap is excellent. I love spicy pork kimbap from William.
Oh yeah.
Bro, that sounds.
I love Korean food.
Uh-huh.
Kimbap is so good. It's literally just like a Korean sushi roll.
My dad's probably watching this right now, and he's like, I thought you hated Kids Bob. John Rodriguez. Oh, wait. We got to go back to that one.
Oh,
Sorry.
wait.
Jacob, that's on me. Best free agent you want the Raiders to bring in. The only reason, and you guys are going to hate my answer here to this, but I'm like, it just depends on who we have as a head coach, OC, DC. I would say if I'm trying to play chess compared to checkers, I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to sign Trey Smith, offensive guard for the Kansas City Chiefs, who I think right now is the top guard on the open market. Raiders need to be able to build in the trenches no matter what you want to do. You put them out there at guard. Like if you told me our offensive line was Colton Miller, let's just say a combination of Trey Smith, Jackson Powers-Johnson, Dylan Parham, and then maybe DJ Glaze there on the outside. Or, we can figure it. Maybe we put, I don't know, Dylan Parham at right tackle. I think we're getting a little bit crazy here, but I think if you add Trey Smith, then you also steal him away from the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, that would probably be the number one name where it doesn't matter who our head coach, OC, doesn't matter who it is. That'd be a guy that I would look at. John Rodriguez, what's up, man? Mitch, PF Chang's, no, PC isn't going to move the needle for Crosby to stay. If this Carroll craps out, Deion is the only one that can get Crosby excited about the upcoming season. You bring up a really interesting point, and I don't think people would realize how excited Max Crosby would be if Deion was hired. I don't think people would realize that Max would want to sign a longer-term deal if Deion was hired. Max and Deion and the entire Sanders family, they go way back. Like, they've been friends since, like, Max was a little kid. You know what I mean? Like,
They both grew up in the same part of
area.
Texas.
Yeah, like Max talked about it on one of his shows where he's like, people don't know this, but Shador and like Max and the Sanders family, like Max literally said, he's like, we've been friends, we've been hanging out since we were like 10 years old. Like, if people are really concerned about Max Crosby and you want a guy like Pete Carroll, I don't know how Max feels about, Pete. I know for a fact Max would absolutely positively love Deion Sanders.
They were both in that far north Dallas, like Prosper, Red Oak, that area.
Like Max literally already said it. He's like, I would love to have Deion Sanders. He didn't say, quote, I would love to have Deion Sanders be a head coach, but in the context that he was talking was, I would love to have Deion Sanders be a head coach. Thoughts, Spytech, Monken, pick up Fields, get Genty, pick Gabriel, Milroe, dart somewhere, but keep AOC. The only reason why...
you keep AOC because he's on a rookie deal.
You keep AOC because he's on a rookie deal. Again, 1.2. But I could actually make an argument that I think there would be a team that you could, in all honesty, you want a bold prediction that I'm going to make right now that I think people might laugh at? I think the New England Patriots trade for Aiden O'Connell. I think the New England Patriots trade for Aiden O'Connell this offseason, and then he's going to go be the backup quarterback in New England. Like, I don't see why that wouldn't happen because the offense that you would run with Monken, Justin Fields, and if you were able to pick up any of these, I would say it'd be Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Like,
AOC
you
makes no
wouldn't
sense.
run that offense with Aiden. And the fact that Josh McDaniels just got hired, the fact that Mike Vrabel and Tom Brady still have a great relationship, I'm not kidding you. I think that the New England Patriots trade for Aiden O'Connell to have him because he's more of a backup than a guy like Joe Milton is. Like, the offense that they're going to run in New England is very favorable for Drake.
Maybe Monken, the head coach, AOC for Milton, just swap. Both on rookie deals.
I mean, I think Aiden is way better than Joe Milton. I hear you.
6 or 7. I mean, you're training him to be a backup.
Like, I would rather the Raiders get a 6th-round pick for Aiden than just do Aiden O'Connell for Joe Milton straight up.
Joe Milton.
Though the Raiders already have 3 6th-round picks.
Joe Milton kind of looked nice.
I think Aiden's better. But again, maybe in a Monken system it could be different. It'd be interesting. But the Raiders right now have 3 6th-round picks, and they're projected to get another 2 6th-round picks. You could have 5 6th-round picks this year. The NFL put out like a comp formula. I'll probably do a video on it maybe this week once we get more, updates on it. But sorry, I just saw Maddie go out my front door, so I'm like,
We got to see if we can get that video of her falling.
it's impossible. I don't have that footage. The only way I have a chance of getting that footage is if she said I will text y'all later. So that I have my show on the TV, so she probably heard it when she walked in to take Chuck out. She just texted us and said, or she could be listening to it right now. But the camera, the only way that I would have been able to see her fall down is if she would have left the door open and walked up the steps. And because it's the temperature outside, I don't think that that's going to happen.
Rebel.
I'll have number 9, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, and 1 with cheese and a large soda.
55 burgers, 55 french fries, 55 tacos, 55.
Is that what this is from?
No, he just said he was making a joke because of all the food talk.
Oh, I was also like, I could see Rebel trying to be like who's number 9? Like a number 2, Shador Sanders. A number 6. Honestly, the first person I thought of number 6 in football is Patrick Queen. Yeah, that's literally the only guy that I can think of.
Extra dip.
Junk on or Henderson are way better than Genty. Are you saying, I think maybe Quinshawn Junkins and Travion Henderson are way better than Genty? Respectfully, I disagree. Though, you could make an argument that maybe, the value might be better, but, I mean, if we're just comparing running back to running back, I mean, the years that we just saw, Saquon Barkley had, Bijan Robinson, I mean, that's the type of talent I think Ashton Genty
You know who I will say, maybe a little biased because I covered him in high school,
Yeah.
Somebody who I would really look at in the 3rd or 4th round is Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State.
You've always been a big Ollie Gordon fan.
he
I
is
like the
so
kid
good.
out of North Carolina. I think he's a good back.
I mean, Omarion Hampton is another guy. R.J. Harvey from UCF is another guy.
I will say, like, I'm big. I don't draft running backs in round 1, guy. I've been that.
I'm
If
the
it's
sa-
Todd Monken, I might change my tune on that a little bit.
I'm the same way.
But the running backs in this year's class, they're very deep class. John, I think that was the last one that we got. Do we have a few more lined up? Or are we on?
Raiders.
If we don't draft a quarterback, who should we sign or trade?
Yeah, Scatabo is another one. A lot of good running backs.
See, I love these questions because it's like, if we don't draft a quarterback, who should we sign or trade? You're going to sign or trade, obviously, before the draft. I would say if we don't end up getting a quarterback in the draft, like if you already told me, Mitch, the Raiders aren't going to get a QB in the draft, who do you want? Who's the top option? I would say Justin Fields, because I'm not going to pay a lot, where Sam Darnold does make me a little bit nervous. Now, if you go out and get Pete Carroll, I do think Sam Darnold could be interesting, because Carroll's been able to show that, he's been able to help some of these bridge QBs in a way, helped out Geno Smith, but I would say Justin Fields.
If you get Pete Carroll, you know who you have to get. Cam Scatabo. He's the white Marshawn Lynch.
He's the white Marshawn. I think you just get the real Marshawn Lynch and Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
I think that's what you do. Christian, would Prime still sign a QB in free agency and sit Shador for a year? It is a possibility.
That's it.
And
He said that he doesn't mind Shador sitting.
correct. And Tom Brady, I've done a few shows on this, Christian, where Brady, like early in the offseason, said that he believes in a quarterback, to sit for a year. And if you are going to sit for a year, again, like I don't want to say Aiden O'Connell's name, but I do think Aiden could be an interesting option. Now the fact that Josh McDaniels just took the OC job in New England, I think Aiden O'Connell is going to be traded to the New England Patriots. Like, it would be my projection.
I would project it.
Yep. Also, if Aaron Glenn lands a head coaching job, keep an eye on Lions linebacker coach Kevin Shepard as a hot name for the DC gig. Interesting. Shod.
And see, this is the one thing where it's like, if I'm a Lions fan, I am just so upset because
I bet the Lions are nervous. If you're a Lions fan right now, you got to be nervous
your team is getting ravaged.
because of the way Dan Campbell before Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, and Dan Campbell after. It's going to be interesting.
Anthony draft Abdul Carter, Dart, and then the kid from ASU, running back Solid. Not a bad
I
mock.
think Abdul is a good player. I'm not drafting Dart in the 2nd round, and the ASU running back Scatteroo. Where do you think he goes? Do you think he gets drafted?
I think 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. And it's so hard because depending on what running back your team looks like they want or need, like I would say there's probably 15 running backs that have a 2nd or 3rd round grade this year, at least.
There's a bunch of backs, and I think we could also see a run at running backs, right? Remember the run at offensive lineman last year?
I think you could easily see a spurt in the NFL draft this year where there is 5 running backs taken in a row. I think that's easy.
That's
like,
a lot of running
like
backs.
into
in a
the
row.
2nd, like start of the 3rd, maybe middle of the 3rd round. I think you could see about 5 running backs be taken because of how good the value is there with guys who have 2nd round grades at running back be taken in the 3rd round.
A run on running backs would be wild. I don't know 5. I honestly would be surprised if 3 backs got drafted in a row.
I wouldn't.
3 backs is a lot.
I wouldn't.
No? Okay.
There's so many good backs.
Noah, Justin Shields downloading. LOL. I mean, it's a phenomenal nickname. All right, y'all, I'm going to hop on out of here. Rebel's hungry. I'm hungry. Chuggs is hungry. If you're hungry for more Raiders content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you got those notifications turned on. The next time you're going to see Jeremy Chuggs and I live here on this show is going to be Sunday. Bills, Chiefs, FKC, unless the Raiders hire a head coach. If the Raiders hire a GM, if the Raiders hire OCDC, we will be live here on this channel. It's going to be an interesting week, and I appreciate everyone that's always tuning in for us today. We still got over 1,000 people watching. That is a huge thank you for Chuggs and I. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm out.